Yeah, I like this one better. I think this is my favorite.
Think this is your favorite?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah. What do you at home think? Is this your favorite intro song?
Wait, play the other one.
Right, now they gotta see a ton.
Yeah, we need to know which one is the better of the two.
Yes. If you have a preference, if you think between these two songs, which one is your favorite? We'd like to know. Tell us in the comments which of our intro songs is your favorite intro song.
They're both very catchy.
I know. I like them both.
Oh.
Is it like right in my... Yeah, there you go. We'll block Spider-Man for now.
Yeah, it's not important.
All right. Hey, everyone. If you didn't catch it at the beginning, we go back and forth between intro songs. We're trying to see which one everybody likes better because we can't decide.
We dance to both.
That said, welcome to Wind Down Your Weekend. We are here at Bat City Comic Professionals on Austin's East Side, and as usual, I am SmallPressShann, here to talk about some of my favorite indie. Couple of big 2 books this week, and I'm here with my buddy Wednesday Phil. How's it going, Phil?
I'm fantastic. I'm feeling great today. Happy to be here. Well, as everyone in this room knows, the Atlanta Braves are going to the World Series for the first time since 1999.
Woo!
We beat the Dodgers, and it feels really great. I'm very happy, a lot of energy, so...
Congratulations. If y'all don't know, Phil's actually originally from Atlanta.
Yes.
Yeah, been in Austin for a really, really long time.
Pretty much my whole life. I tell people that I'm from Texas, but... Because then you have to explain, you have to break down the timeline of... It's just too much. So I tell people I'm from Texas, but yeah, I came from Atlanta, so... It feels good. I'm very happy. Yes. So hopefully we can beat the Astros. I apologize to anyone who is watching this who is an Astros fan.
Right, you got Gomez on here who's actually in Houston who just says, sorry, the Astros are about to sweep.
That is not going to happen. Gomez, we can have a conversation about this later. It's definitely not going to be a sweep.
I think it's going to be a good game, though. A good game series.
I think it's going to be closer than Astros. Because all week at work, people would come in with Astros shirts on. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm really excited. You guys are going to beat the Red Sox. I'm a Braves fan. And they're like, oh, you're the team we want to play. We don't want to play the Dodgers. And it's like, okay, we'll see. We'll see how you feel. I mean, look, I love my team to death, but I'm a little nervous. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill climb, so.
We'll see what happens.
Yes, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really, really well. It's been a slow week in comics, but it's been a good week in comics, and I'm really excited because we're less than a week away from Chris Sheehan coming to the store, and Small Press will mean next Saturday, and so I'm really excited about that. That also means that we're only like 4 days away from House of Slaughter coming out in general, so freaking out a little bit. Can't wait to see what's gonna happen in that issue. It's gonna be so good.
I am not caught up on Something Is Killing the Children, but I hope that I can jump straight into House of Slaughter without being caught up.
I mean, you could, in the fact that it is kind of a prequel, but they kind of give you this last volume that's just wrapping up of Something Is Killing the Children gives you the backstory of the lore behind the Order of St. George. So you kind of need it to know like some of that insight. I think you're going to get way more of it through House of Slaughter, but I do think that it's gonna be helpful to know that. It's kind of like you could have started with, like, when people are like, what episode of Star Wars do you start with? It's like, you can start with episode 1, but, like, it helps if you saw 4, 5, and 6 first, because that's the way they came out. It's the way the, like, the excitement and the energy was built around it. So you almost kind of want to do it, but I think we have a lot of the issues if you need to catch up.
I have the first 3 trades.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe like 4 or 5 issues.
Yeah, you'll need to get into those, but it's worth it.
I can do that.
Gomez, I do have on red slippers actually, but they are not my actual ruby red slippers that go with this costume because those leave glitter everywhere I go.
Oh yeah.
So it was a kindness to myself and Matt to not actually bring them out. But this is actually what I was wearing when Matt and I got engaged. So
yes, I saw the famous video. Yeah. I was actually at the draft house last night, and they were doing like all these pictures of people at the draft house, and I was disappointed that wasn't.
I am always
one of the pictures in that slideshow. Like I saw it and I was like, where is that? It's got to be a big moment.
Whenever I see that slideshow before the movie, I always get disappointed that it's not that, or my friends B and Jen, they got engaged, and Nick Cage did their engagement during Cage Fest at the Draft House. That's also
really?
Not in the pictures. And I was like, well, we're missing out here. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's because technically we were all like employees at the time, so it's not as fun to like be like we're welcoming back like the people.
Oh, I see.
But it's still like, I don't know. I think one of them should have made it in there because they're cute moments. But and our photo got more likes than Matthew McConaughey. I'm just saying. Since we're winding down our weekend, we have a bottle of Educated Guess. This is actually one of Chad, who's in the comments. This is one of Chad's favorite things. Can you actually hold that up? Because I'm always terrible at getting it closer to the camera. This is one of Chad's favorite bottles of wine. It's a little dark, so you might not be able to see it, but this is, it's called Educated Guess. It's a Napa wine. It's Cab Sav, and I know that I like this, so I'm really excited to see what you
you've had this one before?
think before. Yeah, Chad actually gifted us a bottle of this one time, so it's really good. But I'm glad you get to try it because you haven't.
Yeah, I picked this one up kind of on the fly. And usually there's two things that I go based off. One, the label. And there was another slightly more expensive bottle that I was going to get because it had a really shiny foil label. Mm-hmm. But it was a little too expensive. And then I kind of started reading this one. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. But the other thing is the rating.
Yeah.
Like if I see something that has a rating next to it and it's higher than 90, I'm like, okay, I'll try this one. I kind of like the whole... It's called Educated Guess. I like the little blurb on the back.
And I think you'll like it because it's not too dry. And, like, usually we're like, get the dry, like, almost abrasively dry wines. Yeah. And this one's not as that. But it's not too buttery.
It smells very fruity.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
I do like that.
Yeah, that's, like, in that middle range that you like, so...
Yeah, it's got a little bit of the buttery hint to it, but it's not too bad. I definitely like the flavor.
It's not an overwhelming butter. Yeah.
The aftertaste is very grapey, too. Mm-hmm. I like this one.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, that's Educated Guess. We'll be drinking that tonight. If you're drinking along with us at home, anything particular, let us know, because we're always curious what you're enjoying. We are also going to be all night long giving away, with each prize, we'll be giving away a ticket into our Amazing Spider-Man 700 raffle. Yes, we will be drawing for this at the Small Press Halloween event this weekend. So there's still time to buy tickets to enter this. As with everything else that you purchase in our store, the money does go towards helping us get books to send to schools and developing all of our kids' programming. So entering to win does help that. If you're interested, you can send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, email us if you'd like, or you can come by the store to enter. But each prize tonight will include one entry into this random chance drawing.
I've seen some people reaching out. I think that 30 ticket. That's really that seems to be popular. 30 tickets for $20.
30 tickets for $20.
That's a pretty good deal.
Everybody loves it until I tell them they have to write their name and phone number on all of them, and then they're like, "Ooh, maybe I should have just done 10." I'm like, "I'll help."
I remember the last raffle. Chad came in and bought 30, and he was like, "Do I need to write my full name and phone number on all of them?" And I was like, "No, we know who you are.
We'll figure it out." Yeah.
You can just put Chad. We'll get it.
Yeah. Subscribers, we know how to contact you. So yeah, we'll be giving away tickets to this. This is a 9.8, and it does have a Dynamic Forces certificate of authenticity on the back.
And a cool seal, too. Nice shiny foil seal. There's the COA. The quote-unquote death of Spider-Man, supposedly.
Yeah, it's in quotes, too, which I love.
Yes.
And this is really cool. We have a subscriber that has almost a complete Spider-Man collection. Like,
wow.
yeah, and he even entered to win this, and I was like, do you not have this book? He goes, no, I don't have it in a 9.8, and that's not an easy grade to get on this book. So 9.8 on a 700, he's like, I'll take the chances on it. So it's a good entry to, good raffle to enter, good prize.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
Cool. Speaking of, let's give them an entry ticket right now.
Yeah.
And prize! We are going to be giving you like I said, an entry ticket into that, as well as a copy of Broken Souls Ballad #1 from Black Caravan, which is kind of the horror imprint of Scout, I guess is the best way to say that. So in order to get that, we'll just do like a horror type question. What was the first publication from Boom Studios? You can tell me what the first publication from Boom Studios was, the first comic, I guess, essentially from Boom Studios. You get a chance to win the Amazing Spider-Man 700, as well as this Broken Souls Ballad #1, which you read.
Yes, I did. I enjoyed this book. The art in particular, I'm also just a sucker for werewolves. I love, especially too, because in comics it's great to always see how they do the transformation.
Since it's a stagnant image.
Yes, and you can always really do very cool and unique things that you can't do in other mediums. So this is an interesting book, and it's also, they have the trade is already out.
Yes.
And they're also still doing the single issues for it.
Yeah, if you don't know, Scout does one issue and then they wait 2 months and then they put additional, like they'll continue the series from there. And with their smaller imprints like Black Caravan and Nonstop, they actually did, do the, what is the word I'm looking for? They actually do graphic novels or trades directly from after that issue 1. And so they, with Black Caravan, or with Broken Souls Ballad, they like brought out the trade, but then I guess they decided to keep doing the issues, which we've seen with a couple of the Black Caravan titles, where they've been like, you know what? It sold well, let's do it, and move on from there. I'm not looking for Steven Universe. I am looking for a specific comic that was Boom Studios' first publication. It is a #1, so you'll see a #1 on it. It's fitting for the time period and goes with the fact that we're talking about monsters. That's what I'll say to that. And so yeah, if you can find that comic.
I did not know this answer.
I didn't either until I read the entire history of Boom Studios today. Which is always a fascinating thing. I love to read the history of all the small presses and how they got started and like where their connection was. Like finding out that Dark Horse was, things from another or things from another world. Yeah. Like finding out all these different like people who are like trying to get books. Like I learned that Ross Richy was actually working on helping comic books get optioned in Hollywood when he created Boom Studios, which is probably why Boom Studios has such a good relationship with getting movies and shows made out of their properties, is because that's actually what Ross Richy was doing at the time of creating Boom Studios. So if you go to Boom Studios Wikipedia page and you look at their history, you'll see it literally says the first publication of Boom Studios was Boom Studios, not a TV show. We're looking for the comic book that Boom Studios first put out. It's not a TV show.
It's like an original.
It's an original comic book, yeah.
I think it would also be kind of cool to see like a docu-series, and each episode was a different indie publisher's
Let's
history.
make it.
That would be tough to do.
They'd all be in on it. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's good. It's good publicity for them, and we could totally do it in the same way that like our buddy Adam made the Nickelodeon the Orange Rush thing. We could do it like that, and I think that would be really cool. One of my favorite things I've ever seen is the documentary on Image, the Image Revolution.
Yes,
I reference
I love that documentary
so many times. I'll just constantly like bring it up.
I'm also that person though, that's like sitting around, and if I can't think of anything to watch, I'll try and find like comic book documentaries of any sort. I don't even care what the topic is. When
I got a root canal, they were like, what do you do? Talking to me before, and I was like, oh, I own a comic book like store and a nonprofit, and I do all this stuff. And so the lady like went through and found a comic book documentary on Netflix to play while they were doing my root canal, and it was all about the whole like pre-code horror and how the code like destroyed the pre-code horror, and how it felt like the Comics Code Authority was specifically coming after them because all of the things that were listed in the Comics Code Authority were like listing of what you could not have were actually just things that were featured in the pre-code horror books. So they were like, no, we feel like we're coming after, y'all are coming after us directly, and we can't continue. Gomez is not Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck is a TV show. Boom Studios comic books, their first publication. I'll give y'all all, should I give them like I said, it's about monsters of sorts. It's very fitting for Halloween. Their first publication, their first comic book was some kind of Monster Tales #1. That's what I'm going to give you. You just need to actually know what the monster is.
Start naming monsters.
Right. If you can just name some monsters.
Tales #1.
Yeah. That's your hint. That's the only. That is the biggest hint I've ever given on the show. It's like, what's the monsters? You can go through all of the monsters in the world, and you can also just go Google Boom Studios and Ross Richy, and you'll figure out.
You know, back when I watched the live streams, I was always doing stuff.
Right. You were working.
I was usually getting out of work, and then I would be going to like HEB or something, and I would sit there and be like, I can't really Google this, but I want to know. I want to get this right.
Well, we have a winner. It's Brett, and Brett, I am so excited for you to read Broken Souls Ballad, actually, because I feel like you would enjoy the crazy off-the-wall weirdness and darkness of this book. But it was Zombie Tales #1, which, Brett, that means you get an entry into the Amazing Spider-Man 700 drawing, and you also get this, and I actually brought the bucket for the tickets.
It's sitting over here on the floor.
Add that in there. Sweet. So yeah, we'll be giving away a ticket with every prize tonight into this drawing. You can also still buy tickets in the drawing until the end of the event on Saturday, when we'll draw for a winner. Okay. You do not have to be present to win. So, I've had that question like 20 times this week. Like, what if I'm interested in this this drawing, but I won't be here? And I'm like, oh, that's totally fine. I'll still call you. That's why you put your phone number on the ticket, so I can call you. So, alright, so we've got some new comics to talk about. Like I said, it was a very small week in comics. There were no Image titles this week because of printing delays, which we'll talk about a little bit later in comic book news. And then there wasn't really a big thing for Marvel and DC either. And we were talking about like the reason that might be is that if they brought out a new #1 right now, then you're going to get issue 2 at the end of November, and then you get those layovers of like issue 3, which isn't really your big cliffhanger issue, and then you go on a break. And because they don't have comics like the week of Christmas, and usually New Year's isn't a big thing, so it's kind of like people forget about what they were reading, and they forget that they need to go back, or they forget to pick it up if they're not subscribers, and so it's kind of one of those like lull times in comics, but it's actually a great time to pick up indie books, because indie books are like, hey, half the people don't remember when our books come out anyway, so we're going to try whatever we want. And so one of them is Howling Snow, which is a kung fu fable from CEX, which is Comics Experience Publishing.
Yes.
That started in April of this year. So I am actually still researching this publisher. I don't really know anything about them yet. I do know that they've actually shared some of Creative Credit, which is Chad's podcast. They've shared some of his tweets before.
Oh, really?
When I was researching them earlier today, I saw that and I was like, oh, wow, these people have at least been following Chad. So, yeah. And he doesn't, actually, so it's cool that they're following Chad. But, which if you're not following Creative Credit on Twitter, you should, because he always talks about cool new indie books and then is working to do some cool interviews with indie creators and publishers. So,
yes, go support Chad and all that he does.
Yeah. But Howling Snow is all about the idea that in Chinese proverbs they would say that, in Chinese mythology, they would say that an animal, if it learned enough and enlighten themselves enough, that eventually they could become human, and have this new life. And this is a one shot.
Yes.
It's an all, like, this is the whole thing, but it's multiple stories about this fox character.
Yes, and it's kind of you see a lot of the, like, samurai journey tropes in this book. There's definitely a lot of that. I like this art style. At first I kind of thought it was very much like something you would see in a kid's book. Just with some of the line work and just kind of how it's presented. But I like it. It's kind of got like, oh God, who's the guy that does Wonder Woman Dead Earth? I can't believe I'm blanking.
Oh, Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, where it's kind of more of a messy, the lines aren't as clean. But I do really like it. It fits very well. There's some really crazy stuff in this. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it was not this one. There's some cool stuff in this, but it's got a bit of a fantasy vibe to it. And I enjoyed it. I feel like this is a fun one-shot, especially if you like samurai, kung fu stuff. The fight sequences in this, the sword fights, I thought were kind of cool as well.
Yeah.
I like you, I know nothing about this publisher, so.
And it's an interesting, like you said, because, like, you said it does kind of have, like, a fantasy feel. It is listed as a fable. So they are trying to make it very fairy tale-esque, fable-esque, like more of probably the Aesop's fables, and things of that nature. But it does kind of have that feel. Like they captured that in the stories that I like the stories that I read from it. Like I felt like it definitely felt like parables and fables. So I'm curious. I definitely want to learn more about this publisher. I know we had one other book that they put out earlier that was called Stud, and it was kind of looked like a barbaric, like God's brutality kind of story. But I didn't get to read that one. It came out on a week we didn't have the live stream, so I never read it. So this is like only the second book that I've seen from this publisher yet, and I want to learn more about them. So if you've read anything from Comics Experience Publishing, or know anything about them, drop it in the comments, because I'm definitely curious to learn more about them and just see if what their plan is and what kind of thing it is creator owned. I do know that everything with them is creator owned, and it's kind of supposed to be about drawing more creator owned titles out. So we'll see more about them. Hopefully we'll have an update for y'all in the future about them and what this publisher is all about. And Ram, we can definitely get you a copy of Howling Snow so you can check it out.
And it's a one shot, so it's probably around the 80-page mark, I would say, but only $4.99.
Right.
I think that's a pretty good price point for a one shot. Usually they're like $6.99 and up. So I definitely would check this out. Yeah,
absolutely. There was a question in there from Brett. Brett said, has there been an update for when Kate's and Segment's Vanish comes out? That is, for now, just through their Substack. So it'll only be digital, and I don't know the dates on the release schedule for that, because I'm not actually subscribed to their Substack. Sorry, Donnie, I love you. But I don't know the release dates for their for Vanish on their Substack, but for now it's only through their Substack, and then eventually it will come out in print, and it will come out through, most likely, I believe he said most likely through Image, which makes sense because it's on the KLC, which is Kids Love Chains Press, which I believe all of the books will go through Image that are on that, because I feel like you can't have that press and not be related to Image. Like, I feel like Todd is only willing to let you take his catchphrase so far. So I feel like all of those books will probably be, when they're in print, will probably go through Image, but I can't guarantee that. I'm not sure when, and I don't know what the release date for the print versions of any of the Substack comics are, but once we know them, we'll let you guys know. Obviously they'll be in a previews catalog 2 months before, so we'll kind of have an idea, but I believe most of the creators on Substack said that they're going to do like the webtoons model, where it at least goes through a first arc, and then it's like a month or so later it'll be out. So it'll be a while before we'll probably see Vanish in print.
Probably before we see any of those books in print. I know some of them are not really rushing to put stuff out, because with Substack you're paying not just for comic books, but you're paying for other things. So I think some of those creators are probably not in too much of a rush to get this stuff out. I'm more curious to see if it's going to be single issues or if they're just going to go ahead and collect everything in print. It seems kind of like a waste to do single issues and a trade paperback if you're already going to be waiting that long anyway.
Right, that would be a long wait for a lot of people, but it's new, so nobody really knows how it's going to work.
No, I have no idea.
I've heard the coolest, honestly, one of the coolest things I've heard on Substack is that Scott Snyder is just doing classes on his.
Yes.
And I actually, I just want to hear Scott Snyder do these classes. Right. That sounds amazing. So, while he's doing these classes, I hope that he's writing volume 2 of Witches. But, I'm just kidding.
I don't know if he is.
He's not.
I really don't. I think he's working on other stuff.
He's got a lot on his plate right now. He's got a couple of books that are still ongoing, like Noctera and Undiscovered Country and a couple of other ones. And he is doing the show for Witches. He recently wrote the pilot. So, we'll see it eventually. Well, it'll happen.
Yeah, I know he's definitely going to be putting out some more independent stuff in the future. So,
Also, if you want me to sign up for your Substack, Scott Snyder, that's the way to do it, is you put Witches on your Substack, and I will definitely be signing up. Let's just be real here.
Yeah.
We talked about Boom already, but speaking of Boom, issue 2 of Ma is out this week. This book definitely should come with a trigger warning.
Yes.
You just read issue 1
and 2.
And 2.
Yes, you kind of hyped this up after the first issue, and I actually bought the first issue because of one of the covers.
Right, that beautiful Megan Hutchinson Cates cover.
Yes. So I was sitting here when I saw it in the pile. I was like, I feel like I need to read this if I have the number 1. And that definitely a trigger warning in this book. Assault towards women. I do really like this book though, because issue 1 I was like, okay, I like where this is going, but now I'm even further into where this is going, because you kind of get the vibe that this is going to be a darker story, especially with the subject matter that you're touching on. This book and the art too, A.L. Kaplan,
gorgeous art.
Big fan of the art in this book.
Yeah. And when I read the first issue, I told everybody, it needs a trigger warning, but also because it's exactly what so many people, it is literally, I could tell you stories of my life that fit exactly that. And it was, in issue 1, I love that they do that moment where she is talking about her assault, and more so than talking about the assault, the traumatic experience of it for her was how the courts handled the situation.
Yes.
And how she was painted out to be a monster. And that's kind of the whole purpose of the book. The original tagline was, when they keep calling you a monster, what's to stop you from becoming one?
Right.
And that is kind of the horror of the book, that it's gonna, it goes from it's got that real life horror as the current tone of the book, but we know that from that tagline, that's there's going to be an actual horror movie kind of horror to it, and we start to see that in issue 2. And it's gonna get really, really creepy, but at the same time still hold on to that. And it's one of those, we see a lot of that, with even the Babadook is, this big allegory for the experience that this woman is going through as a single mom, and the stresses that she's under. And this is going to have that same level of analogy and allegory put into it, because it is going to, we've seen everything happen, and then now we're going to go into this allegory of it, and we're going to get that darkness that she's feeling, and the hurt and the pain, and it's you're going to get it even if you've never had that experience, in a way that you wouldn't just if they told you the story of the attack. And again, and I like that every character has some kind of different relationship to that. We even see the sister of the main character, she's been assaulted multiple times, and she still has she's constantly having men even just catcall her and everything. And you see that the sister think, well, I've never had that experience, so nothing bad has ever happened to me.
Right.
And that's that different level of it, where it's no, just because you haven't had that you haven't been raped or you haven't been physically assaulted doesn't mean you haven't been harassed.
Right.
And the one character in this book says, I read your file. I know what happened to you. Like, you've experienced things that are just as bad. And she's like, well, no, it's not as bad because it wasn't that. And she's kind of just blown it off. And it's such an important part of the story to know, like, it doesn't matter where on that spectrum, like, it's still an attack, and you're still having those experiences. And so understanding, like, the importance of anything from, like, that small experience to the ultimate, like, what everybody considers a bad experience, and how it's all just blown off by women, men, whatever, all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And then putting this, like, dark filter on it, and this, like, scary, like, what is going to happen? Like, where is this monster actually going to come from within us?
Yeah.
And who is, the age-old question of who's the monster and who's the man kind of thing.
Yes. And I like, too, one of the things that I really enjoyed in this issue is I like the one guy that has like a real speaking role. Mm-hmm. The guy who drives the van. Yeah. I kind of like how, he tries to insert a little bit of his male opinion, and it's put down pretty much the whole book. Every time yeah.
Somebody's like, okay, but your opinion's really invalid to the situation.
Yeah.
And I like that too, because we have a society where, men are constantly like, okay, but let me explain to you what you're feeling. And it's like, no, but that's not it. You've missed the whole point. Mm-hmm. And so it's good that they do that. And I know you're reading it. I don't know if you've read it yet, Matt, but I know a lot of other men who are reading it, and not one man that has picked up this book has come in and been like, well, this is just an attack on manhood. They haven't said that. They're like, this is a really good, really important story, and it's also kind of scary. And I like that it is something that, male voices are picking up and actually reading and are like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Because that's important, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh, well, this is a feminist book, and they just, like, push it aside. And it's like, no, but it's important.
Yeah, but it's I think women empowerment is something that we should always be supporting and pushing as a male population.
Amen.
I've never, I can't say I've experienced a lot of what's in this book, but I know people that have, and it takes a big toll mentally and physically mm-hmm. on those people. And I know sometimes it can bring women down.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've been in a world where, for the most part, there's not a ton of support systems for that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of also appreciate that you can go to a comic book mm-hmm. and see that not only is there women out there who are pushing women empowerment, there's also women out there that have experienced mm-hmm. these things as well. You're not alone in these situations. Yeah. And they're,
Yeah, and it's kind of I think we showed you the Bitch Please segment that Amber Ruffin did on her show about the son of Kal-El, but the part that she said on there where she said, someday some kid is going to be out there and he's going to feel like he's all alone, and he's going to pick up this comic book thinking he's just picking up a comic book, and he's going to feel seen. Right. And it's amazing to me that people who aren't necessarily even in the comic book industry are now realizing that, like, you can pick up a comic book and feel seen. Right. And I love that we're finding voices to put in there, and we're able to tell these stories. And because comics are kind of something that people haven't been paying attention to for so long, we've been doing everything in comic books. And it's great that we've gotten to this point where it's like, okay, we're still out there talking about, since the beginning of comic books, we're still out there talking about what is the important thing we need to say today. Let's put it in a story. Right. And let's give it an allegory to where everybody can pick it up and enjoy it and think, oh, like, this is a horror book, and it's just, like, it's going to be crazy fun or crazy scary. And then they walk away and they're like, oh, I feel seen, or, oh, I understand that situation better than I did before. And this book is definitely going to go on that list of books that accomplish that very well.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I'm kind of sad seeing now that it's only going to be 5 issues.
I know.
But I think that's also going to be enough to give us
Yes.
what we need and get that message across.
Absolutely. So yeah, this pick up Ma if you haven't. We still have copies of issue 1.
Yeah.
Because I know that because Phil just read one.
Yes.
we
still have the Megan Hutchinson cover as well.
Yes, which
So.
you definitely need. And so yeah, we still have issue 1 and issue 2, and I definitely think now is a great time to jump onto that series.
Yes.
Speaking of jumping onto series, this is Refrigerator Full of Heads, which is the sequel to Basket Full of Heads by Joe Hill. Not written by Joe Hill.
Correct. Yes.
Was not sure when it started if it was or not. Like, I just assumed because Joe wrote Basket Full of Heads and it feels so similar that I just assumed that it was also done by Joe Hill, and it wasn't until after I read it that I went back and was like, oh, it's actually not Joe. But this is issue 1.
Yes.
And
written by Rio Urez?
Yeah. Basket Full of Heads was Joe Hill homaging the crap out of Jaws in all of his references.
That now makes sense
Yes.
in this issue
Yes.
because I was sitting here thinking like, this seems very much like a Jaws alternate universe
Yes.
story.
So in Basket Full of Heads, if you haven't read it, it takes place on an island called Brody Island, which that's the chief in Jaws. And there's the mayor, and Basket Full of Heads has the mayor, and he's the same character, and it's got the sheriff, it's got all of it. And in Basket Full of Heads, there's a mass murder on the island, and the young girl grabs an axe and fights back in there's a basket full of heads, and I'm not going to tell you how we get out there. And so this issue, it's almost more of a companion than a sequel. Because if you didn't read Basket Full of Heads, it gives you a little recap about what happened during Basket Full of Heads, but we're in a different time. And it's like, it's not the same year. It's like if you watched a Jaws movie. You can jump into Jaws 2 and they're going to recap what happened in Jaws 1 and you're kind of going to get it. Or if you pick up a Halloween movie at any point in time, with the exception of like Season of the Witch, where you'll be like, I thought this movie was about Michael Myers. You're going to pick up and kind of get where this is at. And this, once again, highly homages the crap out of Jaws.
Yes.
Down to the very last scene being a direct, like, photograph of a scene from Jaws.
Yes.
And a boat scene and everything. But this is the axe from the first series is now being found by new people. And we see their experience. So there's not a mass murder to start with in this one, but who knows? There's still time.
Yeah, I kind of thought this was going one way with the beginning of this book, with the home invasion, and you're like, okay, I think I know where this is going, and then all of a sudden they're on an island, and there's a mention of a great white that's out there wreaking havoc, and I'm thinking, wait a second, is this going to be Jaws? Is that what we're getting? And yes. Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's exactly what
And
you're getting.
The home invasion is from the first series.
Okay.
So that was a recap of that home invasion that happened in the first series. And this issue is just Jaws. But with a weird twist to it. So yeah, alternate universe Jaws, Refrigerator Full of Heads. This is the return of the Hill House comics, which is Joe Hill's imprint at DC. Not really sure if we're going to see more of the Hill House comics come back, or if this is the only thing that's coming back from Hill House Comics. There's about 5 or 6 titles on Hill House Comics last year, and we haven't seen anything since those first ones ended. And this is the first.
It has been a while, huh?
It's been around since this time last year, so this is the first new wave. I hope we see more because I enjoyed all of the stories that they had on the last run of Hill House, and so I hope we get to see more. It's kind of weird because we talked about this during our horror comic our horror comic episode, is that, with the DC Black Label, they've kind of started printing all of their horror books through that. But this is actually labeled both. It is a DC Black Label Joe Hill presents Hill House Comics comic.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So You know, you can just put all the labels on it. I mean, you're talking about a company called Detective Comics Comics.
Yeah.
So they're all about referencing themselves as many times as possible.
So it's an imprint within an imprint.
It's an imprint within an imprint.
Within a publishing company.
Within a publishing. Yeah. Yes, it's beautiful. But check it out. It's definitely worth it. Even if you didn't read the first series, you can jump into this one. Phil hadn't read it, and he read this issue. So
yes, I did not read Basket Full of Heads at all, but I was curious because this cover too has a little bit of the shark's mouth up there, and I was like, okay, I don't know where that's going to play into a book that I think at some point is actually going to have a refrigerator full of heads. But I really enjoyed this book a lot. Yeah, I also love that one character is wearing a Frankie Says Relax shirt.
And references things as Frankie says do this the whole time. He's like, Frankie says jump! And I'm like, okay. You are having way too much fun with your shirt.
Yes.
I'm going to switch to this because we're really just going to show you the art probably, but this is Black Beacon from Heavy Metal, the Magma
Number 3?
Yeah.
Yes, number 3.
Is it Magma? No, it's just the regular Heavy Metal imprint, right? And they all have these beautiful, like, art style covers that have, like, the framing on them. This is, like, the Swamp God was on there, which is great. The Rise, which is based off of George Romero's, like, story. And so, yeah, this is Black Beacon is a space opera. Like, honestly, if you're a fan of Saga, you should probably read Black Beacon. Because the art and the story feel a lot like Saga.
I would agree 100%. And the art in this book by Sebastian Perez is just, it's so good. It's very colorful, and it fits very much with this story. And yeah, if you like, space operas.
Yeah, this is this strong space opera.
Yes, and I like the story, and for the $2.99 price point, like, you're getting way more than your money's worth.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure on this book. I hope that they continue to do this. I truly hope this is an ongoing. I'm unfamiliar with how Heavy Metal puts out their stuff. Because for the longest time it was just a magazine.
And Elements, that's the name of the imprint. They have the multiple imprints now at Heavy Metal. Because they have Elements and they have Magma. And like the Magma comics that I've read so far have been about 5 issues, kind of on the Aftershock model of like 5 issues is the whole story. And so I'm guessing Elements will probably be the same and kind of be in that, but the stories have been so good from both of those imprints of Heavy Metal that I really, like you said, it was the magazine for such a long time and not really much else. And Magma brought in Denton Tipton, who was with IDW, and he came in and started Magma for them. And I don't know who's editor-in-chief at Elements right now, but it's seeing them go in and say, you know what, let's grab some of these comic professionals who have been in the industry for a long time, and let's make some comics that kind of come out of like these same things we did. Like a Tomahawk was all in the Heavy Metal magazine, and it would be awesome if there was like an ongoing, like if the next like a Tomahawk was just on one of these imprints and could come out as just those single issues and each week, like that would be super cool. And I hope we continue to see that. It seems like Elements is kind of more of your like fantasy horror.
Yes.
You've got your space, you've got this, and then Magma has included things like Modern Frankenstein, so it's kind of more real world, a little bit more of that like contemporary style, whether it's still got some tinge. It's all Heavy Metal, so it's all got a tinge of something dark in it, but it's where it falls, like what world it's on, kind of seems to be the breaking point for their publisher, or their imprints.
Yeah, and I like that they're breaking out and doing all these imprints. I mean, I used to love Heavy Metal magazine. I never actually collected them myself, but one of my old roommates would always get it, and I thought there were some really cool stories in there, to the point where I was like, if y'all just took these stories and expanded it out. I mean, a Tomahawk, I remember picking up that first issue of a Tomahawk thing was the coolest thing ever. Granted, I didn't know it was Donny Cates at the time, and I also had no idea that it came from Heavy Metal magazine, but I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then you read it from Heavy Metal magazine, and you're like,
this is really cool,
this is why they needed to do this kind of stuff, because there's definitely great creators who work with heavy metal, and it's great that they now can kind of get more voice and have more stuff out there in the universe. Yeah, I would pick this up just for the art alone.
And I'm excited to be putting this on the wall. Like, I'm excited to give these new, like, imprints of something like heavy metal, like a spot on our wall. And Black Beacon, it has a spot because it's, like you said, the art alone is worth, like, it's something that if you walk in and you flip through it, you're like, wow, this looks really good. I need to check it out. And the Rise was on our new this week wall, like, every time it comes out, because it's one of those that the cover, it's the same thing. All the Elements imprint have these, like, the border, framed things in their different colors, and it's so cool to see this, like, each one of them, how it kind of, like, the Swamp God is, like, green and dark, and then the Rise is, like, red and black and gray, and they all have, like, this theme to them, and they're just, it's gorgeous, like, even on the outside. And then, like you said, they're only $2.99. You pick it up and it's like, wow, this is incredible art. It's a good story. It's thick for $2.99. Like, honestly, the only person doing that for you that thick is Todd McFarlane at this point. So it's cool to see another book out that's that thick for that price point, and still a good story and some great art. So
yeah, definitely check it out. Heavy Metal's going to be kind of one of those publishers that's on my watch list.
Yeah, for sure. And you can actually subscribe to, obviously, all of the heavy metal imprint titles, like the ones on Element and on Magma, but you can actually subscribe to Heavy Metal Magazine with us as well. And we have 1 or 2 subscribers to it already, but if you're ever like, hey, I miss heavy metal, you can also subscribe to Mad Magazine. Thank you, sir. You can also still subscribe to Mad Magazine, which is published by DC.
Going?
DC owns it now. Yeah, so, you know, if you're into magazines, there are some. There's a ton of magazines. G-Fest, which is the Godzilla magazine.
Yeah, I saw that. You guys had a copy of it on the rack over there.
I get it. And I order an extra for the store.
And one of our subscribers gets it as well. So.
Well, I know that sometimes, occasionally when I'm hanging out here reading, someone will be like, whoa, what's this Godzilla book?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but... You know,
we'll be happy to tell you about it.
Yes.
AWA Upshots, Not All Robots by Mark Russell. Once again, doing an amazing job being Mark Russell and telling you something. This is issue 3.
3 of 5.
Yes. And this is the story of, we've gotten to a point in the world where we've already had, like, the robots take over, essentially. Like, all the jobs have been taken over by robots, so you basically, in order to have funds for your home, have to have a robot who goes to work for your family.
Yes.
And so it kind of like references back to the 50s and the shows like you see in the 50s where the dad comes home from work and he's like, oh, I'm so tired, and it's like the whole family is like, oh, well, this is what we did today, and he's like, I'll be in my garage. And honestly, our house robot in this particular book kind of feels more like Al Bundy in Married with Children, because he's so bitter about it. But we see this where they're coming in to the point where now people they don't trust the robots. In issue 1, there is a mass casualty caused by a robot who because robots run the government too, was just let off on the charges of destroying literally the entire city of Orlando. And so their solution is not to not have robots, because again, we're run by the robots. It's to make robots that look more human, to make people feel at home with them. And so this is kind of a conversation about, this is Mark Russell having a conversation with robots, where now, these new, more modern robots are going to replace the old robots, while the humans are already obsolete for the most part. So humans have already gone way past the feeling of, like, we could be replaced by robots someday. And now the robots are at the place where they're like, we're going to be replaced by better robots. And so it's that same conversation of, like, feeling obsolete, feeling like you don't matter, feeling like a robot is going to take your place, except we're seeing it from the perspective of robots.
Yes, like, we are now the most obsolete, and now the thing that replaced us is feeling like, it's just funny to me, because, you know, you think about sometimes, like, the human emotions that you have with how life can be sometimes, and how it's not always the greatest thing in the world. And I love just kind of seeing these robots now experiencing the same kind of things that we deal with.
Yeah.
It's really, really funny. I've been enjoying this book. I feel like ever since issue 2, we're working towards, this big event that's going to happen. It's definitely leading towards a big finale. And this one, it's just kind of slowly... I feel like this book is doing really well at building tension.
Yes.
Like, you know what's coming, and Mark Russell's like, I'm going to slowly roll this out, but I'm going to pack a lot of emotion into it. So, because by the end of this issue, I was like, okay, let's get there. Like, I'm ready to see this happen. And he's like, well, no, not yet. Like, you even get to the end of the issue, and the big reveal has not really much to do at all with where this book is going. And you're like, wait, what? No, this issue's supposed to end with, like, setting up the final act. This is it. And it doesn't do that at all.
No.
It doesn't do that at all.
Does not.
But I think this is a fantastic book. I mean, we praise Mark Russell every week on here. You've got Mike Deodato Jr. art, which is really great. I mean, I haven't been reading a lot of the AWA stuff, but...
It's all like this.
Yes.
And actually, Mike Deodato Jr. is actually pretty much like the artist in residence for AWA.
Okay.
Pretty much, like, every third book has Mike Deodato as Jr. as the artist, or he does, like, the variant cover if he's not the artist on it. And he's been, since the beginning, like, with J. Michael Straczynski, he's been the, like, founding, like, artist. Like, it's like if you don't have an artist on your book, they're going to throw you Mike Deodato Jr., which is a crazy choice. Like, the fact that, like, it's like, oh, we don't know. You know what? Let's just put Mike on it.
Yeah.
It's like, you're getting a great artist for some, like, your
yeah.
Your pinch artist is extraordinary.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's been a great series. I actually, when it was pitched, I was like, I'm going to read it because it's Mark Russell, but I don't really know if I care about a robot book. That just sounds kind of like another, like, iRobot or anything like that. Like, I don't know. And I love iRobot, don't get me wrong.
Great movie.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, like, where he could go with this. That's not something we've already heard a million times. And then I read it, and I was like, why did I ever doubt that Mark Russell was going in a different direction than I thought? Like,
well, the nice thing is that when you watch a movie with, like, iRobot, you're going to get a little bit of the social commentary and the conversation about actually what's happening. Whereas in iRobot, it's mostly Will Smith saving the day.
Right.
Whereas this, it's like, let's remove the hero aspect altogether, and let's just have the conversation about what's actually going on here.
And that's actually a thing that I like about Mark Russell's books in general, is there is no hero.
No.
Nobody is ever here to save the day. Nobody's ever a good person. Nobody's ever just this quintessential, like, role model that we're supposed to look to or identify with. Like, everybody in a Mark Russell book is completely and totally flawed, and nobody is better than anybody else, which is Mark Russell's biggest commentary on society, is a reminder that we're all flawed and nobody is better than anybody.
Right.
And whatever your situation is, somebody else's situation is just as important to them as yours is to you, and Mark Russell nails that in everything he writes. And he's definitely one of those people who's going to go down as, like, you should just pick up everything they write.
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I feel like, unlike Cullen Bunn, we've never said a negative thing.
Chad actually said earlier when you said support Chad and everything he does, he said support Chad and everything he does unless it's liking Cullen Bunn.
Yes.
So I love that you were going to let that make it the whole way through, and then
no.
And then you had to throw your dig to Chad.
It's not even it's not even a dig at Chad, you know.
No, it's definitely not.
Like you said, we're all flawed. We're not all gonna love the best creators in comics. So I love you, Chad.
We've got, speaking of some of the best creators in comic books, we have Ice Cream Man 26. Matt, cover your ears, because I know you didn't read it yet.
Should I not open it either?
No,
it's dope.
You have to actually open this, because this is the thing that makes, you have to show the first page.
Wow.
The thing that makes W. Maxwell Prince an extraordinary creator is that W. Maxwell Prince in every issue of Ice Cream Man says, what can I do that's different than what anybody else has done or is doing on a regular basis, or what's different than what I have done. This is a medium that's meant to be played with. How do I play with it? And so this book says immediately to turn the page, and then you do, like, it tells you to turn your book 90 degrees, and that he's like, oh, that's better. And then the entire story is told in this direction. You have to read the book this way the entire time. And it's just one, and this is all about a guy who's trying to figure out his family tree. His whole thing is like, I feel like I'm an anxiety-ridden, like...
This is ridiculous.
So good. He's like, I'm trying to figure out my family tree. I'm anxiety-ridden. I feel like my only solution is to get drunk and do drugs. And I feel like that's all my family has ever been, is like these, like, his words, like, losers who can't get their shit together kind of thing. And he's like, I don't know. And he's going through his history, and he's like, the only way to go through my history is to physically climb the family tree.
Yeah.
And so he's actually on a tree, and he's climbing it, and he's telling you the stories of each of these people. And for Ice Cream Man fans, there are connecting points, which is really cool, and I'm not going to tell you what they are. But he's always doing something. You know, he had like his advent calendar issue. He had the palindrome issue, which read forwards to the middle point, and then the story went exactly the same back. So no matter which way you opened that issue, you're reading the same story.
Right.
And he's constantly trying to do that and play with it and just experiment with new things. And yet it's not just to do it. It's always relevant. Like, there's the one issue that is... did the TV just pop? Oh, our TV just broke. That's exciting.
It's coming back.
Cool. Like, there was the one issue that was... I always talk about that's the Neapolitan issue, which is... it's three stories, so they're 3 different colors, and the 3 different colors tell 3 different stories, and it's a silent issue. And so the color palette of it, and it's on every page, it just kind of goes, like... through the story. None of them have a single word in it, and it's such a cool way to play with medium. And people ask me, like, have we ever explained who Ice Cream Man is? W. Maxwell Prince started to. There was a story arc in the middle of volume 3, where he decided, I'm going to explore who the Ice Cream Man is. And they start going through this whole, like, good versus evil epic battle of all time and all this stuff. And nobody cared. I don't think W. Maxwell Prince even cared. Like, he even said originally, like, if he told you the story of the Ice Cream Man, it was never going to be a complete, like, narrative. It was always going to just, like, feature into different stories. And he tried to do it for a minute, and it was like, yeah, I don't think anybody cares. And so he just went directly back to the anthology of it all and was like, all right, moving on. And he's never talked about it again. Like, it's never been brought up since then. Like, we're into... This is volume 7 of Ice Cream Man, and we have not once again mentioned the Ice Cream Man's backstory really since then. And I love it.
I like this cover, too.
Did you see on his Twitter he taped all of the pages together?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I can't honestly say that I've kept up with Ice Cream Man. I wish I had. I think this is probably one of the best creative teams in comics right now.
Absolutely.
The thing is, though, is Image has been doing a really good job of putting out these nice deluxe hardcovers.
Yes.
Of all their books that
Where's
are
the
usually
Ice Cream
about...
Man one?
Yes. So, hopefully soon, Image will be putting out the deluxe editions of these, and I can start reading these in nice hardcover format.
Yes.
Because I have never heard anyone say a bad thing about this series.
I have never heard anyone say a bad thing about the series. We actually had a customer who is doing his Halloween party, his like party favors, to give everybody an issue of Ice Cream Man.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Great way to support shops and also get people into comic books.
And also remind everybody that life is full of existential dread. What a great way.
Isn't that what all comics are about, essentially?
I mean, a little bit. Chad said, here I am over here scripting my intro and outros for my interview with tons of Bad City promos, and you do me dirty like this, Phil.
I don't know what you want from me, Chad. Look, all I need from you, Chad, is to get that Cullen Bunn interview. I have a few questions I'd like to throw in there.
I'm actually 100% here for that and would also have questions. And so, Chad, if you can get an interview with Cullen Bunn, we'll send you a list of questions. Or you could just ask us to come be there with you. We promise we'll be nice.
Oh yeah, I will never be rude to a creator, and honestly, I don't really have any negative feelings towards comics.
No, it's just funny.
Yeah, you know, it's like people who poke fun at Rob Liefeld. You
Right.
know,
Well, I mean, that's different.
it's all in good fun.
Sure.
Oh, is it not?
Apples and oranges. Apples and oranges.
Wait, I thought we were all secretly Rob Liefeld fans who were just poking fun at him for that one Captain America cover he did.
Hey, I didn't get you any questions for the Chris Sheehan interview because I'm going to ask him myself on Saturday. Sorry,
Yes.
That was super unhelpful. I know. But I am excited to see your interview. Or hear. Anyway, next book up, AWA Upshot's Fight Girls. This is a Frank Cho book.
Number 4.
This is issue 4 of 5. And this is really... So there's a YA book, a young adult novel called The Selection, which is like The Hunger Games meets The Bachelor. And it's all about like who's going to be the next princess, like the next queen of the country. And it's the same as The Hunger Games. Like they're all split into districts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally just that book, but for adults. And it's whoever wins. It's 10 women. They have to go through these challenges, and whoever wins all of the challenges becomes the queen of the empire. And the challenges are very much like a Hunger Games Running Man kind of thing. Like the first one, they were dropped into someplace I don't remember, a jungle, I think. And then there was one where they were like, whoever was remaining from that was dropped into like the desert, and then whoever was remaining from that was dropped into the ocean. And then now like it's come down to like an actual fist to fist battle. But of course, in all things, there's more layers to it than that. And like the girl who's winning the most challenges, like there's something up with her, like they're investigating her because she might not be who she says she is. And I honestly, when this book first came out, I was like, this might be the second AWA book that's not for me. Like there's only one other one, which was Man's World. I will tell you that because it was just like the most ridiculous, like it's a bunch of dudes on an island.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I was like, yeah, that wasn't my book. And I was like, this might be the one that I like don't know if it's for me. And then I was like, but I'm gonna read it. And then like Josh and I read it the day that it came in. Like we were reading it while we were putting out comics, and we were like, this is actually good. I mean, not surprising. It's Frank Cho. Like he does some good stuff, but we were like, you know, it could have been just like boob girls like fighting or something.
Which isn't that what Frank Cho was known for?
Yes.
Was,
which
like,
is what I
drawing
thought,
big boobed girls.
Which is what I thought this was gonna be, honestly. Like, but there is more to the story, and because I do like books like The Selection and The Hunger Games, I'm curious to see who's gonna win. And it does play out kind of like an action movie, but in the same way that it does still have like a good action movie where it does have those layers, and we're investigating and like we're following the people doing the investigations too. So it's not just watching girls hit each other or girls try to make it through. There's like monsters in certain, like, you know, oh, they got dropped into the desert. Well, the desert has giant scorpions that are the size of houses. And so there's like, you know, obstacles to it that make it more entertaining than just that. But it does feel like you're watching Running Man at some points.
Okay.
Which I'm here for because I love Running Man.
Yeah, this is because of those $9.99 trades. I'll probably wait for this one. I side note here. I saw Hunger Games for the first time
I'm very
the
excited
other day.
for
Though
you.
I watched the first one. I was not expecting any of that. I had no idea what to expect. It was pretty good though.
Yeah, I
I'm so
can't
impressed.
wait for you to see more because it does get better. And when you get to the last 2 movies, you get Natalie Dormer.
Why does that name sound familiar?
She was on Game of Thrones and a couple other things, and she's super cool, and I like her, and she plays a really good character. But yeah, you get a lot of really cool story that comes up in Hunger Games, and this kind of has a little bit. There's not a revolution aspect to this, or
Right.
is there? We don't know because we're trying to figure out where this girl came from.
Yeah, I like the art style in this. I've always been a fan of the kind of tournament style, you know, kickboxer. Just let me see a bunch of people beat up a bunch of people.
You get that in this one. In the other ones, they're in challenges.
I was looking at this page and I was looking at this book and I was like, is this just one giant fight between these two people? But yeah, I like this. I like the art too, very much. So I'll check this one out.
Yes. Natalie Dormer is on the list of actresses people pitch for Erica Slaughter. from Something Is Killing Children. So if you don't know who she is, you should look her up because she's on the list. United States of Captain America. This is the last one, I think.
Issue 5?
I think it's the last one. Did I feel like we had a resolution? Now I don't know. I feel like they told me they said it was only 5 issues, but now I'm like, did it end? Who knows? But United States of Captain America, this has been all about how everybody in America has the ability to be Captain America. And somebody stolen the shield from Sam and Cap. Sam and Steve, because they're both Cap at this point, stolen the shield from them, and they've been on this investigation to figure out who it is. And they're hearing about all of these people across the country who are posing as Captain America. And as they get there and they talk to these people and they learn about them, they're actually seeing that they're all doing good works for their community, and it's all people that are representing different minorities. Like issue 1, we saw an LGBTQ kid who was like a train hopping kid. Like he had run away and he was on a train network. And then we saw a woman who was a Muslim, and we saw a Native American man. And his story was actually my favorite because his whole thing was kind of like we've seen with Sam Wilson in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, where it was like, America's never done anything for you. Why would you do something for them? Right. And as a Native American, it was like, how can you be donning the stars and stripes and being like, woo, America? And he's like, because my family was here first. Like, we are America.
Yeah.
And nothing is more American than me. And in this issue, we actually see U.S. Agent and Bucky also come in and join the team. So it's like anybody who's ever worn the moniker of Captain America and the idea of Captain America and the whole thing, and was such a relevant conversation because this is a question that we get asked all the time and that we see on podcasts and in polls and all kinds of things. Is it like, do we need another character with this title? Like, is it, can you make another character with like the name Spider-Man, or should they just create a new character with a whole new title? And so many of these characters' names are monikers. Like, and really most superhero names are just a moniker. Like, Captain Marvel. Like, well, yeah, it was Captain Marvel. Like, we had him, but then we get Carol, and she's Captain Marvel. And then we have Miss Marvel from where Carol that went to Kamala. And it's like, yes, like, they're just a title. Like, the title can be, anybody can use that title. And I love that Marvel essentially made this story to remind people that the whole thing is an idea. The reason they chose these titles is to represent an idea. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, by representing that idea, that's what makes the title have power. It's like, words don't have power until we apply meaning to them. And you hear that so much in fantasy novels and things where it's like, well, you only have the control over these people if you know their name, and if you use their name as a strength or a weapon. And Marvel kind of used this Captain America story, this United States of Captain America, to remind us that you can give the title to anybody. That's the whole point. The whole point is to give the title to anybody who represents this ideal of the situation, because that's the point of the name. Yeah,
and to me, the thing that I have always kind of noticed in comics, I feel like superheroes are trying to transcend to being a symbol, right? Superman's all about hope. Batman's talked about it multiple times where, it's to put fear into criminals. I like the concept of it's more than just one person. Mm-hmm. If you believe in the same morals, you have the same principles, and you're fighting for the same thing, then why can't everyone wear that costume? Why can't everyone don, that image, the Captain America? Why can't they have a shield of their own if they want? Like that, and that's what I appreciate about comics, and growing up, always wanting to do the right thing, and wearing these symbols on my shirt, was for that reason, because I was trying to carry on those things. I remember I was at a Whole Foods once, and this lady had left her card in her purse, and I ran through the parking lot to give her stuff back, and I was wearing a Flash t-shirt. And she was like, oh, wow, you're just like the Flash. And I was like, that's the point. That is the point why I read these comics. And I really enjoy that they took that concept and turned it into an actual book. I need to read this one. I've heard nothing but great things. It seems like, and kind of what I'm hoping based on this in the Iron Man series is that Christopher Cantwell is going to become like one of the mainstay.
Right, he needs to be a
Marvel
part of the
writers.
the Marvel panel of like pantheon of writers, because he's definitely doing some good work and opening up that conversation within Marvel of, you know, we've had all these legacy characters and they've seemed untouchable, especially, you know, Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. playing him in the MCU and things. It's like the character became almost untouchable. Like, he had to be this archetype that was kind of, let's be honest, a douchebag, a snobby rich douchebag. And he, you know, the question that we're seeing in the current Iron Man series is, why?
Yeah.
Why are you, like, you know, he's getting called out by Hellcat specifically. Why are you a douchebag? Why are you acting like this? And this whole idea of, like, we've had all of these people as these legacy characters, and it's always a thing now, suddenly now, because it, you know, like, we had Bucky put on the thing, Hawkeye's worn the mantle of Captain America, and why is it an issue now if somebody else wants to take that title? Why is it that we panic and we have these, you know, Reddit threads of people losing their, like, minds over the idea of it? Why are we having all these podcast episodes of how somebody should never be allowed to wear that title other than this person, when the whole thing from the beginning was that somebody can do that? You know, there was a lot of people who were mad when Yada Flor was announced as the new Wonder Girl, because they're like, well, we already have Wonder Girl. And I'm like, Cassie or Donna? Because you can't be mad about the fact that Yada Flor is the new Wonder Girl if you were okay with both Cassie and Donna having the title previously.
Right. I mean, how many Robins have we had?
How many Robins have we had? The number is 6. 6. If you're counting Steph Brown. We've had the 4 boys, Steph Brown and Carrie Kelly.
Yes.
So 6.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can't have all of those things and be okay with it, but then suddenly not be okay with it when it's a person that's a minority.
Right.
And that's really where, like, is that the line you're drawing? Because Marvel is here to tell you that you're wrong on your line, and that the whole thing is that it's supposed to be for everyone. And I love that they use Cap, because the whole concept is that America is supposed to be about all of the people, and it's supposed to, we should include and represent everybody. And I love that they chose Cap, because Cap has always stood for that.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know that Captain America stood for that, you need to go back and reread the Captain America comics, because that's always been the grounds that he stood on.
I also appreciate this book coming out in a time when, like, there's a lot of, I don't want to say hatred, but a lot of distaste for the fact that, you know, like, they dropped the American way on Superman's thing. There's always this whole discussion about, like, oh, well, you know, are comics now being un-American, you know, just because. But let's not forget that this is a country full of immigrants.
Right.
This is, you know, everyone says this is the melting pot of the world is right here in this country. So why would we not give representation to everybody that lives in this country?
Yeah. And yeah, Chad just posted Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow in all caps, and it's so true. And again, if you want to hear my rant about how Truth, Justice, and the American Way was actually not from the comic books, and you're wrong if you're mad about that, you can come into the store and I'll gladly tell you anytime. But we don't have enough time on a live stream for me to go into the entire history of the phrase Truth, Justice, and the American Way. But I am happy to do so for anybody in person who wants to hear me go through the entire history of that phrase. But most of you watching this live stream already know that. So, switching gears a little bit, because we can talk about all of that for an entire episode of this show. This is Aftershock's Almost American. And this is a Ron Mars title for Aftershock, issue 2. And one of the things that we talk about with, you know, the indie the indie comics, a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I've never heard of this creator. Well, this is Ron Mars. And if you only read Big Two, I promise you've heard of him.
Yes.
You've definitely probably have some books from Ron Mars if you only read Marvel and DC. Especially if you read DC, you have a lot of Ron Mars. But
Kyle Rayner.
Right, he created Kyle Rayner. If you don't know Ron Mars, you can send Chad a message, and he will give you an entire history of Ron Mars as the longest-running Green Lantern podcast. But Almost American is a really cool concept from Aftershock about actual Russian spies who defected to America, and they are telling that story. And what I love about it is something that Aftershock is actually really good at doing is finding the people who the historical story is based off of and telling you the actual historical story. And this is one of those situations where we have the actual, former Russian spies helping tell this story to Ron Mars to write.
Right, which I do like. I'm always a sucker for like real life spy stories. So it's cool that there's a lot of like real world stuff that's in this book. I'll say on the first read through this issue, I was kind of a little bummed out because I feel like we were just taking what we already read in issue 1 and just kind of expanding it out a little bit. Because, they told their story and kind of like, I think it was like a 2-page spread in the first issue. Yeah. And now they've kind of pushed it out over like half this issue. And at first I was a little irritated, but then I went back and read it and I was like, oh wait, even one of the characters mentions that the whole time that they've been in America so far, all they've done is retold their story to every agency, like every government agency. So the second time around, I was like, oh my god, I actually really like this idea.
I was waiting to see if you got there when you were like, oh, all they did was retell the story, because that was actually the same thing I thought. I was like, but we've already heard this. And then they get to that point where they're like, well, we just keep retelling our story. And the whole thing is, well, because they want to make sure that our story doesn't change.
Right.
And I was like, what a great way to tell that, like, to show us that. It's to make us live through it multiple times and be like, okay, but we already know this. And it's like, oh, well, then now we as readers also know that their story's not changing and that that's legitimately their story.
Yeah.
And I love that as a storytelling mechanism of, like, not just saying, and we had to retell the story multiple times. Instead of just telling us, they actually show us them retelling the story multiple times. I do also love that the greatest happiness that one of the spies can experience is riding a roller coaster over and over and over again to the point where it's torturous to their handler because they want to only do it. I was like, this is what would happen if Matt was a spy and he got sent to another country. They'd be like, what do you want to do? And he'd be like, take me to a theme park, let me ride roller coasters all day. And then they would hate him for how much he had to do it. Matt has roller coaster t-shirts from all the roller coasters that he's ridden a ton of times. So this is your roller coaster enthusiast over here. So talk about documentaries. We've actually watched documentaries of roller coaster making. So
you know what? I've actually seen, I wouldn't say I've seen a full document. Actually, there was wasn't there like a show on Netflix where they kind of went through, like, each episode was about a different design of a roller coaster? Or maybe it was a YouTube series.
There's a YouTube series.
But I remember thinking, like, wow, this is really cool. Like, there's a lot of thought that goes into designing these things.
Yeah. There's a great show on Disney Plus about the Disney rides, too. Anyway, Almost American is a great, like, I like it because we're not doing any spy work. I love spy books, and what I like about this one, though, is that there isn't any spy stuff so far.
Right.
So far, like you said, it's kind of just a retelling over and over again of their experience, their life story, and getting out. What is interesting is we've never actually heard the female story.
It is just the guy's story so far.
And I'm curious what her role was, and whether or not that's going to come in to be a huge point of the story, because we know what he's done, but yet somehow she's managed to not mention to any government agency, or at least that we've seen, what she did. And so I'm really curious to find out what her role as a spy was, that they're both considered like spy defectors.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of questions building up here that are going to be answered over the next handful of issues. But yeah, I definitely am very intrigued by her because they kind of make her off as like this like playful kind of wide-eyed, you know, like, oh, we're now in America, like this is exciting and different. And I feel like at some point we're gonna reach a moment where she is, you know, we're gonna get a lot of her backstory, and you know, there's a small part of me that thinks like maybe she's the dangerous
part. That's what I think.
You know,
I'm waiting to find out.
He's trying to take the center stage to kind of divert us away from her,
and we're gonna find out that she was into some crazy stuff.
I hope so.
I hope so too. That's what I'm holding out for. Matt, I'm sure you're commenting, but Gomez wants to know your favorite roller coaster. Beyond the Breach issue 4 from Aftershock. So that means we've got probably only one more issue left. I think it actually says to be concluded. I don't know how you will conclude this story in the next issue. This is my one thing with Aftershock is I get to issue 4s, and I don't understand how they will make it to the end by the end of issue 5. And sometimes they nail it, and sometimes they leave me hanging. I'm looking at you, Red Atlantis. Give me more Stephanie Phillips. And sometimes they do actually announce a second volume, which has been a bigger and bigger thing for Aftershock recently. I'm kind of thinking this could be, I don't know the sales numbers on it, so I don't know if it is going to end up being a one that gets a volume 2. But you kind of started out with a very small concept and have escalated it as we've gone through these issues. And I don't know how you tone that all back down in one issue. But Beyond the Breach started with a girl who was leaving her boyfriend and was on a road trip. And suddenly she pulled up somewhere, like her car like got stalled, everything technology-wise like stopped in the zone. And there was monsters and creatures. And then issue 2 came around and suddenly we had a dude from another plane, and he was also like a different creature, and he knew something about different stuff. And every issue has gotten like another group has arrived from another world and another thing has happened, and now here we are. We've still got the guy who arrived who's like a farmer but also in the middle of this great war. And we've got the girl who was leaving her boyfriend. We got the young boy that she saved. And we've got the monster that they've kept with them. And somehow you're going to wrap all of this up in one issue. I'm not sure how. But it's been a lot more of an adventure and a bigger story than I ever thought it was going to be in issue 1. I honestly, at issue 1, I thought that this was their answer to Something is Killing the Children. And in reality, that is not the direction they went. They completely... It's like they decided, let's not do that for issue 2. Like, they were like, we're not going to compete with that. Let's just completely go in a different direction. And they were like, aliens!
Yeah. It's funny because when I was going through the pile of books to read this week, I saw this cover and I was like, I don't think I'm reading this one. And then I open it up and I'm like, oh shit, I have been reading this book. I almost kind of forgot that this was a thing. Yeah. But looking at this art, especially the one on this page here, I definitely need to pick this one back up because I have read the first 3.
Yeah.
But I think, like you, I had that mentality of, like, there's no way that they're going to cover all their bases in 5 issues.
No, and I was talking to my Aftershock ambassador a couple weeks ago, and he was like, what's the one book from Aftershock that sold completely, like, way over the amount that you thought it was going to? And I was like, Beyond the Breach. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I ordered my usual like 10 to 15 of the first issue of an Aftershock book, thinking like, oh, you know, if nobody's tried it yet, maybe it'll be a hot thing. And I don't have it on the wall anymore because the only issue I have is the one that comes out that week until it's gone.
Right.
And it's always gone. And I keep upping the order and I keep selling out. Like, I keep having more people jump on it. And so this is that book from Aftershock that I never would have expected. You know, I wasn't surprised when We Live sold out.
Right.
And I'm not surprised that Bunny Mask sells out. And I'm not surprised Maniac of New York will consistently be gone. Which we do have in stock because we ordered more. But I'm not surprised for any of those. But Beyond the Breach, surprised me. And I'm glad, because it's a different take on all of the things. I don't know which one it wants to be, but it kind of works that I don't know which one it is. And I don't have any clue how you're going to wrap this up in issue 5. Ed Brisson, good luck.
I think I'll wait and read this issue once issue 5 comes out, so I can kind of see the last two together. I like this creative team, though. You've got Ed Brisson writing, and I feel like most of the time he's never really disappointed me in terms of story. I also just noticed that the letterer on this book also is on Chicken Devil, so...
Oh, man. Chicken Devil!
Gotta support all of that creative team across the board.
I will just say, if you're thinking, oh my god, this has been going on forever, I can't make it till the end, there is a signed copy of Chicken Devil up for the last prize of the night, so you might want to stick around. Signed by Brian Bucoletto, so you're going to want to stick around for the end of the show. Last hot new title of the week, we do of course have our picks of the week coming up in just a minute, but last new title of the week that's hot and amazing is Killer Queens from David Booher, who we all know from Kanto fame. This is issue 3. Talk about not having enough issues. This is the next. There is only one more.
Wait, really? There's only 4 total?
It says at the back, to be concluded. And I was like, I hate you, Dark Horse, and your 4-issue thing. Stay tuned for the thrilling conclusion.
Question mark.
But
now, hold on a second.
Dark Horse has been leaning towards these 4-part series recently, and I'm not here for that on this, because this needs to go on forever.
I agree. The 2 main characters in this book are great. The guy is my favorite.
Understandable.
Because he is... Okay, just imagine if Star-Lord was very queer, very sassy, and sex is really only the driving point.
I don't understand how that's different from Star-Lord, but okay.
I guess I read enough Star-Lord.
No, Star-Lord has always... And Star-Lord's not any of... when Chris Pratt plays him, he's kind of that.
He's a little sassy.
Yeah. But no, I agree. And what I actually like about him when we get to this 3rd issue is that he is definitely also trying to introspectively learn about himself through all of these experiences. And I love that because... And not necessarily through we were assassins, but now we're good. We're trying to reform ourselves and become good people. He's actually trying to, also learn about himself through his dating life in the process of being an assassin, reforming to be a better person. And he's like, maybe I'm not good at dating. And maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on myself in that. And so I love that, the reformed part for him is, maybe I need to actually just reform who I am as a person. And we see, like I said, they are assassins who are trying to reform themselves. They've left the assassin business. Now they're trying to be, good mercenaries, essentially. And in this issue, they actually make their first choice for good.
Yes.
And it's nice to see, but they are the sassiest. I love them. There's a reason why it's called the tagline is putting the sass in assassins. Yeah. And David Booher is really good at writing heart into whatever crazy concept he comes up with. And this one was all about, let's do a sci-fi, pulp sci-fi book, but everybody's queer. And I love it.
Yes, I think this is one of the most fun books on the shelf, hands down. It's colorful, it's funny, it's got great action. It gives you everything that you want in a comic book. This is definitely one of the more interesting books I enjoy picking up. And I hope this isn't the end. I'm kind of hoping that, like Kanto, they're all just these 4 to 5 issue arcs that start over at a new number 1 every time, because I feel like there's so many different things that you can do with this. You can go in and go play with so many different sci-fi tropes, and it's just they're right there, and so I just need more. I just need so much more of this book.
Agreed. So, Dark Horse, if you're listening, keep it up.
Yes.
Killer Queens, we want to hear more. And David Booher, if you're watching, just give us more.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very loved. This is definitely one of those books that we have multiple subscribers to, and people come in every week and pick it up off the shelf. So those are some of the hot new titles. We've got our picks of the week. We've got some more in stocks to come. And like I said, our last prize of the night will include a Brian Bucoletto signed copy of Chicken Devil. But we're going to give you a different prize right now for watching. Prize! Oh, that was super deep. We are going to give you, first and foremost, a ticket into our Amazing Spider-Man 700 drawing. We are going to be drawing that this weekend. You do not have to be present to win. It is part of our Small Press Halloween event this weekend, which features a signing from Chris Sheehan for autumnal and, of course, House of Slaughter #1. But you are also going to win a copy of Corset. Talk about an oversized issue. This is a one-shot. It's a full story. It's oversized. It's only $4.99 from Scout.
Nice.
And this was my pick of the week a couple weeks back. And honestly, like, I would keep picking it if I could. It was a really good story. So I'm giving you this book. It's one and done. You need to read it. It's amazing. And I'm going to give you an easy question to get it. What X-Men Adversaries first appeared in X-Men issue number 4?
I would have no idea.
It's an easy question. If you
You
know.
say that as I'm just like, I don't know.
No, I feel like you could guess that.
No.
You wouldn't have got that. Okay.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
What? Really? Okay.
I did it.
All right. Well, if you can, what X-Men Adversaries first appeared in issue 4 of X-Men, you get an entry into the Amazing Spider-Man 700 drawing, which this is a 9.8 dynamic. Yes, Guillermo, you got it. It is the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So, Guillermo, you're getting this copy of Corset, which, Takia, if you have not read it, you are going to freaking love it. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Here is Guillermo's ticket. That didn't get to you. There you go. All right. We'll be giving away some more prizes in just a minute, but until then, we're going to do our picks of the week. Yes, Toad was a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. All right. Picks of the week. Let's start with Nubia, because I'm so excited Nubia is back, and I want to do these big 2 books first.
Nubia and the Amazons #1. It's the first issue. I remember we were talking about this when they first were showing off some of the ads for it in some of the other books. This is quite an impressive team also.
Yes.
Stephanie Williams and I can never say, is it Vita or Vita?
Vita Ayala.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a hard time with that name. But they're handling the writing, and then the art on this one is Aletha Martinez. And I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this art team is gosh darn impressive.
I have to grab this because I didn't. But can we talk about this Sway cover? I think this is the
yes.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I love this cover. This is super amazing. Fantastic cover. Nubia just looking like the queen that she is. And if you don't know, she is actually the queen of the Amazons at the time of this book.
Also, the way this book intros with her coming out of the well, feels
like queen of my heart. Forget the Amazons.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I immediately was like, oh my god, who is this beautiful woman? I cannot wait to see this story. I actually don't know much about is the Well of Souls? Has that been in Wonder Woman lore?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure. But yeah, I really like this first issue. Again, I'm not somebody who is too familiar with the Wonder Woman lore, or really Nubia. I've only seen her a handful of times in the comics. But this first issue, now I want to go back and read all the Nubia stories.
Oh man, you should. And we're actually going to have, just hint right now, there is a Nubia question that will come up in our trivia. So get your Nubia database ready to go. But I love this. They've been doing a great job with the Wonder Woman stories right now. We actually used to talk about how, like, I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan, and, you know, we even had Jenny Frison on Wonder Woman for a while, and outside of those Jenny Frison variant covers, like, there wasn't really a lot of talk about what was going on with Wonder Woman, which is a shame, because it was, you know, one from Greg Rucka to G. Willow Wilson to Steve Orlando. Should have been something people were talking about all the time. But the Michael Conrad, Becky Cloonan Wonder Woman and all of the futures, and you know, the introduction of Yada Flor and bringing back Nubia has really revitalized Wonder Woman in a whole, like, in the Amazons in a whole new way. And now we're about to enter the trial of the Amazons, and this is also leading to that. And I love that they're not just using these as setup books. You know, a lot of times when a big event is coming with the big two, they'll just kind of drop the idea of telling you a story,
right,
in lieu of setting up the event, which is the story. But they are doing a really great job. The stories that are happening in Wonder Woman right now, the stories that are happening, kicking off with this 6-issue miniseries for Nubia, they're telling you these great stories. And it's like, oh, by the way, they also do connect to an event that is coming.
Right. And what was the last Wonder Woman event that was that you know, had multiple kind of series leading up to it? It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's not really. Wonder Woman does not get the same level of respect. I'm just gonna say it that way.
Yeah.
But also just like the same level of involvement and engagement that the other characters do. And you know, we had Immortal Wonder Woman, which was a part of the Future State thing, which was the only, like, most of the Future State titles were all about the future characters, and Immortal Wonder Woman was all about how Diana died.
Right.
And yet she didn't. And she, you know, and that's kind of what the Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad story has been the fallout of, up until this point. And we don't really see, you know, a lot of Wonder Woman events. I think we haven't really had one since Gods and Monsters, maybe? Might be the last one that was really like a Wonder Woman event that kind of included everybody else. So I don't know. Like, it's kind of a big deal that Wonder Woman is getting a huge event that's going to go across multiple titles and multiple characters. And you know, Yada Flor is really pushing towards that right now. Like, that last issue of Yada Flor really was like, okay, hey, by the way, like, there's a reason all of these people are curious about Yada. And it does connect to that. And, you know, Nubia's story is a prelude to the Trials of the Amazon. And Wonder Woman has become a prelude to the Trials of the Amazon. And yet all of them are still very much embedded in their own story. And they're all in different parts of the world. And the idea of them connecting seems like it's so far away still.
Right.
And yet we're going to see this big connecting point and this big moment. And I can't wait. I'm so excited that we are seeing the Amazons get the love and attention that they deserve, and it is bringing back. We're seeing Artemis back with the Amazons. We're seeing Cassie back with the Amazons. We're seeing, you know, Nubia as the queen. We're seeing Hippolyta out with the Justice League, but also still, like, respecting Nubia as queen and her role in that. And I love that we're getting to see so much change in that, and yet so much of it is still actually, like, referencing this lore that we've been building on. And I can't wait to see where this event goes.
Also nice to put supporting characters in the forefront that's not Steve Trevor.
Yeah. Well, and they're still, as far as the story goes, they are still broken up. They broke up before Diana died, and they are not back together still. Diana is back. She is alive again, and she did not go to Steve yet. So
hope it stays that way.
Hope it stays that way. I do know that Michael Conrad likes Steve Trevor.
Of course.
But he also likes Steve Trevor. We had an entire conversation about this on Twitter because I was like, we could just never have Steve Trevor again. And Michael Conrad actually responded to me and was like, wait. I have a purpose for Steve Trevor. And I'm just going to skip to it right now. Because he did the Wonder Woman anniversary store. 80th anniversary came out. This actually came out like 2 weeks ago. But Wonder Woman Day wasn't until this week. So I refused to talk about it until this moment because I don't know why it came out 2 weeks before Wonder Woman Day. Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan have the first story in there, and it is in that consistency of the Immortal Wonder Woman. And it is actually, Steve Trevor's moved on. He's dating somebody else. Congratulations, Steve Trevor. Get over it. But he's moved on, and Etta and him he had a dinner party, and Etta Candy has been there, like, helping him clean up, and it's like 3:00 in the morning. And he tells Etta, can I show you this thing that I made? And she's like, yeah. And he was building it up, and she's like, son, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to need you to speed this up. Like, what do you got to show me? And he's making a documentary on Wonder Woman. And it's this whole story of who, like, Wonder Woman was, how she, like, came to America, how she saved people, how for her it wasn't about punching and fighting people, even though she is a goddess of war, essentially, in all aspects of it, because she is trained in war from birth. Her whole thing is she'd rather live in these peaceful moments. She'd rather save one kid from, you know, a car hitting them and go completely unnoticed than actually stop, like be a part of a giant war. And these whole things. And it's this Steve Trevor story about, you know, it wasn't like, you know, how great Diana was and all of the things about Diana. And I was like, you know what, this is fine, because Steve Trevor is dating somebody else, and he's not with Wonder Woman, but he's acknowledging how great she is and actually noticing all these things about her that I feel like so many times the writers have Steve Trevor forget.
Right.
And not just, you know, he always calls her the angel that saved him, and he always references, like, how she's so perfect. And in this, he was like, you know, what makes her wonderful, she does all these things. But, like, he says in there, like, you know, we realized that maybe we're not the right people for each other.
Right.
And maybe that wasn't the best thing. And I was like, oh, Michael Conrad, you told me you had a plan for Steve Trevor. Now I'm like, is your plan that Steve Trevor should just be her friend that respects her and makes a documentary about her? Because I'm here for that, but not dating her. But yeah, and so it's this great moment. And honestly, these 80th anniversary issues, I was a little nervous. Usually all of the 80th anniversary issues have made me like the character more, except for the Catwoman one, and I'm still bitter and angry, and if you want to talk to me about that, you can come to the store, because it's a very long rant about how much I hated the Catwoman 80th anniversary. And so I was a little nervous, because out of all of them, that's the only other female one that's happened. And I was worried that the Wonder Woman one was going to be not great. But there's so many great stories. They do a young Diana story, which has a feature of young Nubia.
Nice.
And if you've been reading the current Wonder Woman, at the back of every issue, there is the young Diana, which is written by Jordi Belair, which is super cool, because we only usually hear about Jordi actually doing lettering.
Right.
Jordi actually writing. And then we've got a Steve Orlando story in here. We've got a G. Willow Wilson story. It's basically they went back and brought in everybody that's worked on Wonder Woman recently, except for Greg. Is there a Greg? No. There's not a Greg Rucka story.
There's Mark Waid.
Mark Waid has one.
Let's see who else.
I was telling you earlier, the Mark Waid story was actually one of my favorite ones. I was surprised, honestly, that it was. Mm-hmm. But it's a super cute story about how, you know, the Justice League, when they founded, they wanted to put Superman in as the leader, because they were like, well, he's Superman, so he's obviously stands for truth and justice, so right. He's the strongest, so it's great. And Superman's like, I am none of those things compared to Diana. Like, Wonder Woman is literally blessed with the gifts, like, was created with the gifts of those gods. Like, she has the wisdom of Athena. Nothing that my brain has will ever compare to what Diana's does. And then it ends up being, it's actually called Dear Diana, and it ends up being all of them constantly coming to Diana, like, you know, Hal's like, you know, I feel like I've got my life is all a disaster. And she's like, well, you're really put together as Green Lantern. He's like, but I'm talking about how Jordan, I can't seem to hold down a job, I can't do this. And so she, like, gives him job advice. And then she's giving Barry advice about telling Iris that he's the Flash, and how, like, she's like, oh, well, it's okay that you haven't told her yet, because she's an investigative journalist, so she'll love the fact that she's got a scoop that she can't share, and it's like her secret. And she's like kind of giving her him the spin to put on it. And everybody keeps coming to her with these everyday questions, and Clark comes to her with one, and she snaps on him, and it's just like, I cannot be the only person that can give y'all good advice. Like, I'm sorry that I know truth and wisdom, but, like, I have to be more than just the person that y'all are constantly relying on. And he's like, hey, you seem stressed, buddy. Like, do you want to talk about it? And so it's this great, like, conversation of when you are this, you know, you feel like you have to uplift, like, you have to be this thing, this expectation that everybody's put on you. And then she actually gets to the point in it, and my favorite part of the story is she had told Hal, like, you're upset about your job because you have this expectation. You think you're supposed to be this great whatever in your regular job. But Green Lantern is the great whatever. Mm-hmm. And if you just want to, like, you know, screw around and do whatever you want in your daily life, fine. Screw around and do whatever you want in your daily life. Like, you're doing your thing. And she realizes that she snapped at Clark and she's mad about it because she thinks she's supposed to be annoyed that people come to her. And then she realizes, like, he's like, well, do you hate it? And she's like, no, I like giving people advice. And she's like, I just feel like I'm supposed to be stressed out and, like, a mess because everybody that comes to me is stressed out and a mess. And so it's stressing me out that I'm not a mess. And he's like, well, then don't be a mess. Be fine with it. And so it's this great thing. The one you just showed, I think that's the Tom. Is that the Tom King story?
It is. And
that
Shaner
is great because Lois is. It's in that time period where Wonder Woman didn't have her powers, which we're not going to go into that right now. And it's that 70s. She owns a fashion boutique, and she's just kind of like into that, like, the scene. Right. And Lois sets Clark up with Diana, not knowing that they already know each other from being superheroes for forever. And so they go on a date, and Clark shows up in this suit. And he had just told Lois, like, you probably want to go home and change. And he doesn't. He just shows up to his date with, like, his flowers. And Diana's like, you cannot wear that where we're going. And he's like, I have another suit that's less gray. And she's like, no, you can't wear a suit. People will think you're a cop. Like, you can't wear that. And so she gets him in a new outfit, and they go out, and she takes him to this club, and they're having, like, all this fun. And they go to get, like, the whole time he's like, 14 robberies or attacks of some sort are happening in this building. And she's like, is anybody gonna die? And Clark's like, no. And she goes, okay, then try to have fun. Right. And he's like, okay, but, like, what if, like, this happens? And she's like, but it hasn't happened yet, Clark, so why don't you actually enjoy your life? And, like, this is the point of, like, not being a superhero anymore. And they keep going through this, like, really great thing. And so it's a good story of them learning, like, their balances, and her learning about freedom and trying to teach Clark to not be so high-strung. And then the story that you have on there right now is her and Cheetah, and they're in a fight, and Cheetah is, like, destroying this building and stuff that they're fighting, and Wonder Woman realizes that these kids are trapped in this building and they're gonna die, like, this whole family is gonna get crushed, and she literally puts the lasso around her own wrist and holds her wrist out and is like, I and my lasso are completely yours if you just help me save these kids and this family first. And Minerva helps her save everybody, and then when they get all the kids out, everybody's fine, and Diana's like, okay, well, I told you I would surrender and I would be your prisoner and you can have the lasso. And Minerva's like, you don't know me at all if you think that I would sacrifice children for what I'm going for. And it's that whole, Diana's like, I knew that there was good inside of her because I know the truth about a person. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, I'm going to explore that. And so this really goes through all of Diana's being the representation of truth for people and helping them find their own truth. And honestly exploring, and this is a thing, a lot of people came to me and they said they didn't like the second Wonder Woman movie because she didn't beat up the bad guy. All of the other things we're not going to talk about, but a lot of people came to me and said, I didn't like it because in the end she doesn't fight the bad guy. Like, she didn't fight Maxwell Lord, and she should have. And I was like, but Wonder Woman's whole thing since Gail Simone has been, if I don't have to fight, like, don't raise a fist until you, like, don't raise a hand until you first extended it. That's like the big Gail Simone Wonder Woman quote is, you don't wound if you can maim, you don't, like, or don't, whatever that goes. Don't kill if you can wound, don't wound if you can, I can never remember the part that comes right there. But anyway, and like, don't raise a fist until at first you've extended it. And that's the whole thing that they explore in this, is like every single issue goes through the fact that, like, Wonder Woman is like, would rather offer truth and peace. Like, truth isn't about battling, and so she would rather at all times, like, lead people to the truth that leads to peace. And there's one of the issues where Artemis and her and Nubia and Hippolyta are all sitting around the table, and they're like, well, you've never had to deal with this, Diana, but this is a thing that's coming up this week. And Artemis is like, this is how you deal with it, and she goes through this whole battle sequence, and Hippolyta's like, well, the way I fought this battle was. And Diana's like, well, both of you are wrong. And Nubia and her start laughing. She's like, that day was actually last week, and the way I handled it was I went out and I helped the people fight their own rebellion, and now we're allies with these people, and here they are. to be allies with this, and Queen Nubia has already signed off on it. And it's like, that's the thing about Wonder Woman. She's like, why would I fight you? Why am I going to, why? It's not about beating you. It's about bettering everybody.
Right.
And this whole issue is about exploring how that's Wonder Woman's whole ideal. And once again, how that can spread to every person in the world if we give them a chance to realize. And it says in there, no matter what we look like, no matter where we come from, we're all Wonder Women. And we can all save the day. And I freaking love these things, man. Again, just make me a better Catwoman one, and let's call the 80th script.
Yeah, I like the creative teams.
Yeah.
A lot of really great creators in that book.
A redemption for Catwoman. Let's talk about Catwoman Lonely City by Cliff Chang.
Yes. Everything in this book number 1, is done by Cliff Chang. From the writing to the art to the lettering, it's all him. He even does the cover. Actually, I think this may not be his cover.
That might be the variant. No, that's the original cover.
Okay.
He did both covers, actually, is what that just said inside.
Really? Because I thought the other one was...
Covers by Cliff Chang.
I thought the second cover was done by somebody else. I guess I was wrong.
Too, but that's not what that says.
I'm a big fan of Cliff Chang because of Paper Girls.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote a random issue of Nightwing back in the 90s or early 2000s. But I like the concept. Chip Zdarsky did it with Spider-Man Life Story, where it's like, hey, what if this is a world where they actually age appropriately with the time? So this, Cliff Chang actually sat down and figured out like how old she would be, going from year 1 to her time in the Brubaker series, and kind of figured out a way to bring it all together, and also really, in a way, pay homage to the life of Catwoman. There's a lot of references to her time as Catwoman, but we get to see an older Catwoman, and this is in a Gotham where Batman's no longer with us. Masks have been outlawed. Harvey Dent as Two-Face is the mayor of the
last
city.
Decade or something like that.
So this is kind of Catwoman being away in prison for 10 years, and she comes back and is experiencing a completely different Gotham. A Gotham who is like, hey, maybe it's time you move on from that life.
Yeah.
And Catwoman being kind of like, well, that's really all I know.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do it. And your whole world is fake, and you're not, like, somebody needs to teach y'all all the lessons that you should have learned back then. And she also is in prison for a crime that she didn't commit, so this is Catwoman trying to she wants to prove herself as still able and still capable, which is a great conversation about getting older and how we still want to prove ourselves capable of the things we could do when we were younger. But also, she wants to prove that she isn't the person that she has been painted out to be by the media and by these falsified documents that try to make her the villain of the story. And she's not. And she's trying to prove that she's not the villain that everybody's telling you that she is.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I like that Cliff Chang decided to look at it through this lens. I love there's a nice little back and forth between her and Penguin in this book, and it's almost just like, the great thing is that no matter how old the Penguin gets, he's still the same Penguin.
He's still the same Penguin.
He is not, like, everyone else is changing in this book, everyone else has kind of grown up and moved on, but, he's still that creepy little...
Same thing.
Yeah. Like, nothing's changed for him. My favorite part of this book is actually Killer Croc.
Yeah.
Like, an older Killer Croc in this book. He's kind of like that New York nightclub bouncer.
He literally says, this guy right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, this guy. And I was like, oh my god, are we doing that right now? We're... Alright.
Yeah, let me go to a page where he's in. Because I really like...
I think it's after that.
His part, yeah.
Yeah, he's like in the bar, and he's just... Yeah, he's still getting in the bar battles, and he's old, and he's just... Yeah, it's great.
But but kind of like Catwoman, he still wants to stay in the game a little bit.
He's just trying. He's trying his best.
Yeah, I really, really loved this book. I'm definitely excited to keep going. This is going to be one of those DC books that I'm looking forward to every week because shit's going to hit the fan, and I'm excited to see Catwoman be the badass that she is.
Yes. Boom Studios came back with a vengeance on issue 3 of Eat the Rich.
Yes.
If you have not read Eat the Rich yet, issue 1 is kind of pitched as like a get out for the feminist culture, I guess. This is all about a young girl who, much like most millennial age young people, she's got anxiety and she doesn't have a financial portfolio and she's not she's a server and she's not in all of this like kind of high class society that her boyfriend's in, and he's from upper area of New England, and he decides to take her home for the summer, and there's some strange things that rich people do.
Which doesn't surprise me.
No, and she finds out, she's not allowed to talk to the help. She's not allowed to interact with people that she would normally be friends with. And as she goes through this, I don't even want to tell you what she learns about the rich people, but it definitely becomes a thing that, she starts to look into and she starts to investigate. And as she falls further and further into this rabbit hole of darkness, she realizes, much like Alice, there might not be like an easy way out.
Right.
And is she trapped in this world forever now? We don't know, but issue 3 kind of makes us feel like we all are.
Yes, and the thing that I like about this series is that issue 1 kind of hits you with this gut punch, and you're like, whoa, wait, this is where we're going with this. And then issue 2 and 3 is kind of like, okay, we've given you that, but now we're going to really take our time peeling back.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to slowly explain to you what's happening, but there's not going to be a whole lot of action.
Mm-mm.
We're just going to kind of let you simmer in the things that you're learning.
Right. If this is a movie, it would be a lot of slow-paced monologues, and
Yes.
Matt would love it.
This would be, this is a movie that would either be done by Jordan Peele or the guy who did, Midsommar.
Yeah.
Like, very long.
Or at this point, Nia DaCosta, who
Yeah.
did the new Candyman.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I really like this book. One of the things I do like is these inner monologue. It's not letter. I guess that would be the letterer. That would be more of the artist who probably does that, right?
Splash letters.
Yeah, the splash. Thank you. I was trying to look for what that would call this, but it's really great. It just kind of adds another layer to this book, and I feel like this is one of those books that's just progressively getting better and better as it goes along. And there's a reason why this is one of the picks of the week, because...
And it probably will remain one until it's over.
Yes, and I hope that this is an ongoing series.
Yes.
At least 12 issues.
At least, minimum. That's the least I will accept, Boom.
Yes.
Don't hurt my feelings.
And we're only 3 in, and I feel like there's still a long, rabbit hole to fall down, so...
Yes.
Take your time.
Speaking of books that are ending, and I'm not happy camper at all that this might be the end. At least it's the end of this arc, maybe possibly the end. We have Bermuda issue 4 from IDW, and I'm sad this is ending because not only is Bermuda a great adventure story, this is all about a girl who's trapped in a place called Triangle, essentially, and her name is Bermuda, if you catch the joke. But honestly, I don't know where Nick Darrington is gonna fall, but Nick Bradshaw, sorry. Oh
yeah.
The artist. I need him to fall on a book immediately because Nick Bradshaw has some of the best art. And I was actually talking about this today on my Instagram. Nick Bradshaw does this incredibly hyper detailed art, And the coolest thing about it is Lynn O'Grady is the colorist, and none of the coloring takes away from the individual line work that's in there, which a lot of times we see that now. The colorists kind of mat out the line work and, you know, take over it, and so it kind of becomes what you see on the original artwork is a super hyper detailed drawing, and then what you see once it's colored is kind of like a lighter version of that, because they've muted all of the detail work. And Lynn O'Grady does not do that. So we don't talk about colorists enough, I think, and the power that they have. And Nick Bradshaw created some incredible art on this series, and Lynn O'Grady's colors just amplify it. But the story in general is really great. You know, we've got a brother and sister who crash land on this island, and the sister is kidnapped by the Mer people. And the brother is saved by Bermuda, and in the 4 issues that we go through, we see Bermuda and the brother trying to save the sister. And the choices that are made in issue 4 are wonderful, and I need to have way more issues. And this, I got to the end, and it was like, and that's the end, and I was like, screw you, no it's not. I refuse to accept an end to this book ever. This is honestly and truthfully one of my favorite things that IDW has ever put out. It's a great adventure, and I would literally just take pictures, like give me all the posters of this art on like Mondo screen printed style posters, and I would hang them everywhere because it's absolutely gorgeous. And in the back of the book, they always show you the original art, and then like with inks, and then the colored finalized version. And I want, like, if you want to flip back to that, I posted some on Instagram today. I think I posted that on Instagram today because that's insane.
This is definitely Nick Bradshaw flexing his abilities.
Right, Nick Bradshaw's like, you want to see some art?
Yeah.
Like, I got art. I make art. Like, yeah, it's insane. And there's, I think the page before this shows the side-by-side of the art, the original art with inks, and the colored page next to it. Yes. Go back one more. Because the next, that one. Because that's insane.
This is the part you posted, right?
I posted 2 pictures on Twitter, I think. But yeah, the color and the ink side by side is just phenomenal example of how the color does amplify. And this is also the cover of the book in the end.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of the times when you're trying to talk about great creative teams, what separates it is the pencils to the colors, because sometimes it can be washed out, sometimes it can completely take away from what the artist was trying to do or overshadow what the artist is doing. So it's always great when you see the two of them complement each other.
Absolutely.
This is an amazingly beautiful book. I haven't been reading this one because it came out around the same time as another Peter Pan-esque book was coming out. But I kind of almost feel
this week.
foolish that I did not.
We have all 4 issues, so if you're like, I want to get this Bermuda book, it looks amazing, don't worry, you can. We have all 4 issues. Picks of the week that are actually, like, I think only one of them is actually new this week, but we have, you know, our small press of Ween this week, which is a spotlighting Chris Sheehan, of course, with the signing of Autumnal and House of Slaughter, which we do have Autumnal trades in stock. If you haven't read it, this is a complete story of that. Mother and daughter have to return. It's 8 issues. Mother and daughter have to return home to the original town, and the way I always tell people this is her hometown that she left when she was a child is called Comfort Notch, and they have a big giant sign that says home of the world's most perfect autumn. And as in all horror books, when somebody tells you that something is the perfect something, it is 100% not.
Right.
And Matt and I always, you know, if you've watched this show back for the last year, Matt and I have religiously expressed our undying love for this book. And well deserved. I know Chad, who we were talking to earlier, he said that he finally read it and was like, okay, you guys weren't wrong. Like, this is extraordinary, and I'm not surprised why you have such a passion for this book. It's
I'm shocked that he doubted you.
I don't know why anybody ever doubts what I have to say about books. All I do is read comic books. Like, I'll tell you if they're not good. But if I'm telling you they're great, it's because they're great. And this one is definitely, Autumnal is definitely one of the top books. It made all of the list of, horror books. Like, when they made all of the publishing sites, all of the news, like, the listicles and stuff of the world, when they made their list of books, like just books in general that you should read for the Halloween season, Autumnal made the list of all of those. Up there with like the Stephen King books and all of that are creepy for the season. It was like the comic book that made that list for everybody. Right. So if you're not sure, you've still got a week before Halloween to read it, but honestly it's good anytime. If you're fans of like that classic like 70s horror where it's like slow moving sense of dread, this is your book. Chad says it's not that I don't trust that it's great. I don't trust automatically that its greatness matches my interest. Fair enough, Chad. Fair enough. But since we do have Chris Sheehan, the artist on that book, the extraordinary art that it is, here with House of Slaughter also this weekend, I would like to point out that now is a great time to grab a copy of Volume 1 of Something Is Killing the Children with the launch of House of Slaughter, and that being the prequel series to this. Now's a good time to grab Something That's Killing the Children, figure out where that world came from. We have volumes 1 through 3 and a lot of the issues from volume 4 in stock right now. We also have the free comic book day Enter the House of Slaughter teaser. But of course, issue 20 of Something That's Killing the Children does have the teaser to Chris Sheehan's House of Slaughter book at the back of it. So now it's time to grab on to those. I know I've been told by multiple people that Volume 2 seems to be sold out everywhere. So now if you need it, grab it. We also have, since Small Press Halloween, we're highlighting a lot of our local favorites. We have Richy Vegas here with us this Saturday. Richy does these phenomenal comics. And Richy, if you're still in the comments below, you can shout out anything that people can find you on. But Richy he makes these on paper plates and with a regular ballpoint pen, and so they're made to where they are circular and you can turn them as you tell the story. And one of the things I love that Richy does that I kind of wish some other comics would do is he puts arrows in a lot of the things to tell you which direction to turn the book, because you can do that. And speaking of Ice Cream Man and the way W. Maxwell Prince plays with the medium, Richy does a great job of playing with the medium in that some pages will be full page, like the whole circle, and then some are these things that you do have to turn around. And it's a very American Splendor-esque style story, a real just human existence and that kind of conversation. And we actually these are massive books that Richy makes, and they're only $5, and you get this a whole giant almost 100-page story every time. Yeah. And it's one person doing inking, lettering, everything with just a regular ballpoint pen, and I think that's phenomenal that Richy does that. And God, it's just he's so good.
These are really well done. It's also cool, playing with the medium and doing something where you're just doing it with one pen. You don't really see this, but when you're doing independent books like this, you have that opportunity to kind of to play around with things. I really like this. I definitely get that American Splendor vibe that you were talking about.
And Richy just said if you come to the Small Press Halloween this weekend, he will be selling all books at the event for $1. Except for the ones he'll sell you for $0.25. So, Richy, you can do whatever you want. They're your books. But if you want to catch some of these Richy Vegas books, they will be $1 this weekend at Small Press Halloween. Which is a steal, because these books should honestly be $15.
They're 80 pages.
They're 80 pages. And you're going to get an 80-page book for $1 because Richy is amazing. So, yeah. Thank you, Richy. I'm so glad you're coming. Stop by Richy's table this weekend during Small Press Halloween and talk to him, because he's got some great stories.
Pick up these books, get them signed.
Yes.
Talk to him, figure out where his influence is.
Yeah.
These are crazy cool. I see him in here all the time.
Yeah. We also have Will, who does R.W.A, which is the React. I can never say this. Oh my god, I have to.
Reactive Weaponized Armor.
Yes, Reactive Weaponized Armor. See, I mess it up every time I try to say it. Will was here during Free Comic Book Day, so you might have gotten a chance to meet him then, but he will be back. And this art
it's impressive.
It's super cool. I knew you would like that when you opened it up. So he'll be back as well with his books. I think he has a couple of I think he might be another issue in. I'm not sure, but
I think so. Yeah, I think there's 3 total.
Yeah, I think he said that. And so he'll have these out during Small Press Halloween as well, so you can talk to him. You can buy some of these. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Check out that art. Talk to Will. And of course, our co-host in the Small Press Halloween side of the event, our good friend Drew Edwards will be here. He is the creator of Halloween Man, which has been running for 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and he will be out here with a couple of his newest titles, including this one, which is Halloween Man versus the Mummy, which you might know the letterer. The letterer of this book just happens to be a guy named Matt Live. I don't know. You may have heard of him. But, yeah. Don't boo yourself, you clown. This particular book from Halloween Man was actually lettered by our own Matt Live, and it is a cool story. And
toward the end.
Yeah, he likes the end. He thinks he did a better job on the end than the beginning.
Bad.
So, right, you have the artist in the artist of the lettering in the room, so he's gonna tell you where the better pages are. But it's a really cool story. I think Halloween Man is one of those stories that is definitely perfect for the season, but it's also good all the time. It's, a guy who was watching classic horror movies, ends up becoming a little bit of a monster himself. I love the story of Lucy, his girlfriend. She's one of those Richy said no, yay Matt Live, no booze. I love Lucy. She was a model, and they all get attacked, like all the models get attacked by this thing that turns them into plus size women, and she's like, what are y'all freaking out about? We're still beautiful. And she's like a model, she's a scientist, she's an inventor, she's a CEO, she's like a rockabilly queen, and she is awesome and amazing, and based off of Drew's own wife, Jamie, who is also an incredible all of those things. And so it's a great story. It's so much fun, and this is just, he's worked with so many great people on these. Nicholas Scott actually worked on one of the books with him.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was cool.
It's cool, and this Drew was nominated for a Ringo Award this year, and last year he was the Best of Austin winner for Best Comic Book Creator. He actually beat Donny Cates.
Dang.
Yeah. So
that's what I would put on all my business cards.
I beat Donny Cates for best of category.
Yeah. Also, Matt, I see what you're saying. The lettering in the beginning of this really sucks, but it gets better. Definitely progressive throughout.
Whatever. We have these for sale we do have issues of Halloween Man available for sale in store, or you can pick them up from Drew personally during Small Press Halloween. This Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., of course, we will have those Chris Sheehan CGC signed books. He is doing regular... If you're not doing CGC, by the way, I feel this is necessary to say because we're not talking about this at all.
Yeah.
If you're not getting it CGC signed, if you just want to buy a copy of House of Slaughter and have Chris Sheehan's... Or Autumnal, and just have Chris Sheehan sign it, and you don't want it CGC,
right,
it is 100% free. Chris Sheehan is not charging for a signature unless you're CGCing it.
He's a big autumnal fan.
And he is very, very happy that Bat City customers are big autumnal fans, actually. But yeah, he is not charging for just a signature if it's not a CGC thing. So you can come buy your $3.99 to $4.99 book and turn around and get it, unless you're buying an incentive, in which case it is not either of those prices. But you can... come buy your book, whatever book you want. If you're not CGCing it, it's free. If you are CGCing it, Yeah, there's fees, and we'll have a list of all that. That's actually already listed on our Instagram and Facebook, but we'll also have a list available that day for what those fees are. But if you are not going to be here and you're like, I don't want to miss this, I really need a CGC copy of House of Slaughter or Autumnal, give us a call, or if you're watching this, you can just message us on Facebook. Matt is taking pre-orders for CGC signed. He's also doing remarks. Whether you're CGCing it or not, there is a fee for the remark, because obviously Chris is drawing on your book and we want to give Chris money for his great artwork. So there is a fee for remarks no matter what, but you can get, if you don't know, because I have had a lot of people call me and ask me what a remark is. A remark is not a full sketch. You can't commission him to draw whatever you want, but it is a tiny sketch, usually like a square size sketch, on whatever book you want. So we will have blank covers available if you want it on a blank, but he will draw his remark on whichever cover you give him. So we'll have a lot of those available, and you can definitely get into that. Chad says make sure you have silver Sharpies for autumnal.
Copper.
We actually have some gold and copper Sharpies that'll look really cool. But I know Chris will also probably bring his favorite markers to sign with, but you're also welcome to bring your own. We have a ton of copies of House of Slaughter coming. I still recommend coming in early that day. If you have kiddos, there's going to be trick-or-treating with some cosplayers that will be handing out candy and free comic books. And there's also going to be all the small press I know we talked about Richy and Drew and Will be here, but there's also going to be a couple other small press creators that will be on site, so that's going to be really cool. There's going to be about 3 more that you can come out and support, so 6 or 7 in total. I believe we might actually have Girls Rock Austin having a booth to talk about that as well. I hope they are able to set up. And then there will be panels throughout the day. So Phil and I will be talking about some of our favorite indie comics. We'll basically be doing a live stream in person, because there won't be one next weekend on Sunday because that's Halloween and that's a religious holiday. But we will be doing it live in person on Saturday. So if you want to see what we have to say about the best comics coming out next week, come to Small Press Halloween and see Phil and I talk about it in person. We'll also be doing some interviews probably with some of the creators, and then I believe Drew Edwards and Kevin Garcia will both be talking about monsters and throughout history, like the history of like monsters in literature and stuff, which will be really cool conversation as we talk about the Order of St. George and Halloween Man and a bunch of other really cool things.
Will you guys be signing autographs?
I mean, if you want Phil and I's autograph, we'll totally sign autographs. And if you buy a copy of Halloween Man versus the Mummy, Matt will sign your book too. So
I'm only signing Chris Sheehan books for CGC. That's it. That's all I'm doing.
Oh my god. And
it's a separate fee. So you pay for the Chris Sheehan one, and then you pay for mine as well.
I've actually had people ask me if they sent Evolution Revolutionaries to CGC, would it be worth doing that? And I'm like, please don't. Please don't actually waste CGC's time sending my comic there. Please, it's fine. Chad pointed out that House of Slaughter is Boom Studios' single best-selling comic since Berserker, pre-selling over 460,000 comics. I actually like the way Chris Sheehan posted it, which was Boom's best-selling title that does not have Keanu Reeves' name on it, which is a great way to say that. But let's give them something else, because let's do this. Prize! I almost forgot. So, since we were talking about it, we are going to give you, once again, a ticket into the drawing that Phil forgot he was supposed to hand up or show you guys. So, you will get 1 ticket into the random chance drawing for the Amazing Spider-Man 700. Scott, perfect timing! Scott said that, of course, he missed the live stream where we gave away tickets to enter into the drawing when he was here this week. So, Scott, we will be giving away 1 ticket into the drawing for the Amazing Spider-Man. We will also be giving away a copy of Almost American #1 by Ron Mars from Aftershock. So, now is your chance to jump in on that. And since we just talked about the 80th anniversary of Wonder Woman, the question is, The first issue of what women's magazine featured Wonder Woman on the cover? You tell me the first issue of which women's magazine, I guess is the grammatically correct way to say that, featured Wonder Woman on the cover. So if you know the answer to that, you will win it. It's actually in my new favorite kids book, and I read it on Storytime yesterday, so if you watched our Storytime, you can win these prizes. So we are giving a copy of Almost American #1 from Aftershock and a entry into the Amazing Spider-Man 700 9.8 CGC Dynamic Forces. Yes, Scott, there you go. I knew Scott was going to come at this strong. He did not want to miss out on a free ticket to this. Yes, all right, Scott, I gotcha. You are getting this copy of Almost American that I just wrote down as the complete wrong title of that book. And I will get you into this. There you go. You are into the drawing as well. It was Miss Magazine, for those of you who don't know, which was started by Gloria Steinem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was at a time where, if you may not know, but after World War II, when all of the men came back and kicked all the women out of comic books, essentially, which they conveniently left out that the Comics Code Authority had a lot to do with that, but it's fine. After all the women were kicked out of working in comic books, they also kind of decided that Wonder Woman was too powerful for a female, and they needed women to register the idea of going back into the home. So Wonder Woman gives up her powers and just kind of literally works in a fashion boutique and just kind of becomes more of a regular person and wants to marry Steve Trevor and deal with all of that. And it was a dark time in the Wonder Woman days. He said, as Scott said, Gloria Steinem was a big Wonder Woman fan and was super pissed when she switched to the pantsuit. And a lot of women were. And yeah, they decided that women needed to take back Wonder Woman and that power that she had, and Gloria Steinem launched Miss Magazine and was like, we're putting Wonder Woman on the cover and we're tired of this bullshit. And that is kind of how Wonder Woman started to get her power back, was from that and from all of these women like just not dealing with it anymore. Like they were like, no, we're not about this. And Wonder Woman kind of started fighting for equal pay and equal rights for women in the comics and kind of moved on from there. So if you want, I didn't bring it with me, but there's a really great children's book that is all about like the history of Wonder Woman from day one, which is actually how I learned that Charles Moulton, who is one of the, like, of course we know, like, you know, we have the creator of Wonder Woman, all of that, but actually from 1944 to 47, and I could be wrong on those days, might 44 to 48, the Wonder Woman under the name of Charles Moulton was actually a female writing under that name.
Oh,
and
nice.
So, yeah, she actually wrote Wonder Woman for those 4 years, and super great. So anyway, we got some in stocks we're going to blow through pretty quickly. This one probably less quickly than others, but we have Phoenix song Echo.
Yes.
Do you know where we came from and how we got here?
No.
Okay, so...
But I read this issue.
In the Avengers series recently, we had the whole Phoenix saga, which was the Phoenix Force needed to find a new host, essentially, and it went through a battle to get to who was going to get it, and in the end, it landed on Echo.
Which is kind of cool, and I liked that she was battling Namor. Yes. Kind of for that. I thought this was a pretty cool issue. I've always been more of a fan of the whole concept of the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. You know, I like when it was attached to Jean Grey, and you had the Dark Phoenix saga and all that stuff. So yeah, I also not really paying much attention to Marvel books. Yeah. I didn't feel like I was all that lost.
Yeah, a lot of people, when Marvel books come out with events, they'll tell me, like, oh, well, Shannon, you can't register the event. Like, even with Trial of Magneto, people were like, well, you're going to be really, really lost. And it's not the case. Their editors are doing a really great job of or their writers. I'm not sure who's actually doing the initial work, but the teams are doing a really great job of making sure if you're coming to the event for the first time, you're not lost. And
right.
I'm really excited that Echo's getting the spotlight and getting some time, because this is a great character that we don't see a lot of. And I'm glad she's getting the Phoenix Force and some strength, and of course a story that goes with that. Last book you'll ever read. We put it in this category this week, actually, just because I can't show you anything inside of it. Still a really fun book. This is Vault's Nightfall imprint, and it's all about a book that causes people... Yeah,
God.
you cannot put that on the live stream. So I actually snapped pictures to Matt today and was like, can't put last book you'll ever read on the thing this week. I'm gonna get pulled off of Facebook if we do. So yeah. But it's a great story. We're seeing a girl who wrote a book who may be possessed by a demon. She may just, I don't know. There's a lot. It's Cullen Bunn. We'll see if it plays out. I just wanted to bring up the fact that we have Ice Cream Man issue 1 as an image first in stock. Not an Ice Cream Man issue 1. Don't get your hopes up. This is an image first, so it's only $1. If you've never read Ice Cream Man and you're like, I'd really like to try that first issue, even though it's an anthology and you don't have to, here it is. Just wanted to bring that up because I never bring up random things like that. Death of Doctor Strange. This is issue 2 of that. We've got it in stock. It's fantastic. You should read it.
Jed McKay.
Jed McKay, and anything he writes, I'll read it.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles 122. Right.
Yes.
Eastman cover.
Eastman. Oh, I only order the Eastman covers at this point because nobody ever wants the. I order like one of the other one, and then I just order a bunch of the Eastman cover because that's what you all want. Let's be honest. You're here for the Eastman.
I do. I will say though, Sophie Campbell has been handling the story. I think for the past like 10 to 15 issues, and she has been killing it.
Yeah. It's been a good run.
So good.
Speaking of great runs, Donny Cates issue 18 of Thor. Or as everybody said, can I get that frog issue of Thor this week because that looks awesome. And I was like, yes, Donnie loves Throg, so good luck. It's going to be an adventure because if Donnie gets to write a character he loves, he falls all into it. Savage Hearts issue 4. This is from Dark Horse. This is all about a female berserker and the like weird woodland creature that really wants to win her over as they fight an evil sorcerer. Nightwing issue 85 from Tom Taylor. You all love this book. I don't need to tell you anything about it. Green Lantern issue 7.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Who's doing this one?
Chad, tell us about the creative team on Green Lantern because Phil wants to know and I haven't been reading it. I do know there's an Alan Quah cover coming up soon that everybody is dying for.
I was only reading it because Grant Morrison was writing Green
That
Lantern.
was the season 2. This is the actual regular Green Lantern.
2 separate series?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the Morrison stuff was the main
No.
Lantern book.
It ended.
Flash. It's still happening.
I've heard nothing but great things about
I have
this.
not heard a single person complain about this book once.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is weird because I work in a comic book store and usually somebody has some complaints.
Well, and I was kind of nervous too following up the Joshua Williamson run, which was just so impressive to me.
That run, though, is like all of the people who are coming in are like Wally West is finally getting the treatment he deserves.
Finally.
Yeah. This book that we're holding up, though, is Batman number 115. We're coming to the end of Tynion's run, so we're going to, speaking of Joshua Williamson.
Yes, who will be taking on Batman. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he does with the character after what he did with Flash. Catwoman 36, also coming to the end of Ram B's run on Catwoman, but this is that beautiful Jenny Frison cover. There's one in your box, don't you worry.
Oh, I know, I saw. Because at first I was like, why am I getting... Oh, yeah, that's right.
Cherry Blackbird already has another issue, and I still haven't read it, so that's why that's the only reason it's in this.
You have my issue, too.
We have your issue, too.
Okay, cool.
And, yeah.
I'm taking these out of the poly bag because this book is...
It's so good.
I need to read issue 2 also.
I need to read your issue 2. We still have your issue 2 and we haven't read it. And so that's why issue 3, that's the only reason issue 3 is not in like a Picks of the Week section is because we didn't get to read it.
And it's not really a book that I don't think we can show all that much.
We can't show it. But Joseph Smallkey, if you're fans of Count Draco Knuckle Duster, Phantom Star Killer, We Don't Kill Spiders, these are all...
Electric Black.
Black, these are all... did you do Black Caravan too? Or Dark Caravan?
I believe so.
I think so, because it's a spin-off of Electric Black, which is where the idea of Black Caravan comes from, is it's the mixture of Electric Black and the Dark Caravan.
He's been killing it. Talk about a creator that I'm fully on board.
Whatever they do. We Don't Kill Spiders is my favorite. I'm just gonna say, but
That's
I
it.
haven't read all the other ones.
Cherry Blackbird's mine.
Ooh, that's a good. I haven't read past issue 1, so I don't know. So far, We Don't Kill
Well,
Spiders.
the nice thing is I'll keep opening up these polybagged
Thanks,
issues
buddy.
so y'all can read them. I'll devalue these books.
Chad said Cherry Blackbird and Money Shot are 2 of his favorite books that we can't talk about on live streams. I handed you a book. What was it? Oh, Tales of Exandria. This is for Critical Role fans. This is the new Critical Role comic.
It's Critical Role D&D style.
Basically.
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe Revelation. If you watch the Kevin Smith cartoon, this is the comic that goes with it.
And part 2 is coming.
Sooner than everybody thought.
Yes.
Everfrost from Black Mask. This is a high sci-fi fantasy comic book. So, you gotta go.
Same writer who does Black Beacon.
No, nice. That makes sense. That makes the whole thing make way more sense.
Yeah, which means I need to read this now.
Yeah, you would actually probably like it. Dungeons and Dragons has a new series out called Mindbreaker. This is IDW, so I think it'll be good for your younger fans too. Clans of the Lari from Aftershock. This is issue 4. This is your big sci-fi from Aftershock, which we haven't seen a lot of. I already talked about that, but I went and got the other cover earlier. Shazam! Issue 4. This is the end of the newest Shazam series. So if you like Shazam, you should read that. I've heard good things. Legends of the Dark Knight. This is issue 6 of that series. If you didn't have enough Batman in your life, here's some more. Black Manta, issue 2.
It's a cool cover.
It's a cool cover. I've heard it's a good book.
Is the writer Bitterroot, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Is it? I don't know. You should look
Well,
into
it's got Sanford Green on the variant
Sanford
cover.
Green did the variants for the whole series. I don't know if it's the same writer, but Sanford Green is doing all the variants, so that makes sense.
I can't even think of the writer of Bitterroot
I'll
right
go-
now. Something Brown.
I'll go.
Ryan Brown?
I'll go look. We have it. It's over there.
Is it right over there?
No, Bitterroot is on the recommended shelf. But it's cool that Black Manta has a series at the same time as Jackson getting his own Aquaman title.
Oh, nice.
That's relevant information. Batman versus Big B, A Wolf in Gotham. If you played A Wolf Among Us, this is a comic book that goes with all that. If you are a fan of the Fables comics, all of that is connected. So if you're like, why did Vertigo go away? I miss Fables. Here you go. They are bringing the Fables world into the mainstream DC continuity. Speaking of Batman titles, the Batman Secret Files, this one's all about peacekeepers. So for everybody who was like, I really like John Cena in Suicide Squad.
Different character.
It's a different one? It's not the same?
No, he's Peacemaker.
He's Peacemaker, that's right. This is Peacekeeper. This is a completely different thing. This is from Future State.
Yes.
Yes, this was the one that I thought was based on Jason Todd, but it wasn't when you actually found out who it was.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there was a new character they kind of introduced, kind of like the police's main brute. I don't know what the hitman. I don't know what you want to call him. The main something.
He's like the main person in charge of the security in a world where we don't have mass characters anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed somebody, but they basically just took Jason Todd as a model for this police officer.
Yeah.
And all of the peacekeepers are kind of like Red Hood-esque type characters.
Right.
And this is Peacekeeper 1 is the one that we followed through Future State that was in the Dark Detective? It was one of the main Batman stories of it.
Yeah, because it wasn't the next Batman.
Right, it was the one that actually had... It was Dark Detective, because it was the one that actually had Bruce in it. And
I think that's right.
And we saw a lot of Peacekeeper in that.
He was also... Wasn't he also in the backup story with...
Yes.
The team... I can't remember what they called themselves.
So he's been in... He was the one you saw consistently through, and you're kind of still seeing him a little bit in some of these like fallouts of Future State or like the prequels to Future State. We're starting to see this, and this is kind of like how he connects to the Batman universe. Speaking of Batman, because I haven't said that enough on the last 5 minutes of the live stream, Batman Catwoman is out from Tom King. This is the rest of the Tom King story we didn't get when he was pulled off of Batman suddenly. So That's the best way I can say that. But it's a great three different timeline story. And we're on what issue, Matt?
8.
8. So
8 of 12.
We've got a few more issues before those of you who are waiting for everything to make sense from Tom King.
That is why I immediately moved to trade waiting for this. And it's crazy because I'm a huge fan of Phantasm.
Mm-hmm.
But I got like 3 issues in and I was like, this is way too confusing. Kind of similar to what I did with Rorschach. I stopped after like issue 4 or 5. I kept collecting it, but I was like, I'm gonna wait because I know if I don't read this in its entirety in one sitting, I'm gonna be completely confused the entire time.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point that's kind of the way I feel like I have to read Tom King. And I want to read all of the Tom King all the time, but sometimes I'm like, I don't remember, especially with the delays in comics right now. It's really, really hard to keep up with where you were last in Tom King. And the last things we have in stock right now that I want to show off is it was Wonder Woman Day, as we mentioned. It's the 80th anniversary of Wonder Woman. So we have free copies of the Wonder Woman Day special comics, which includes a Greg Rucka Wonder Woman story, the first little bit of Wonder Woman Tempest done by Laurie Halse Anderson, who is known for the graphic novel Speak, or actually the novel Speak, but has a graphic novel adaptation. She is known very much in the YA world. And then Diana, Princess of the Amazons, which is written by Shannon Dean Hale, which you will know, Phil, from Squirrel Girl novels.
Yeah, I was about to say, those names sound familiar.
Yes. They wrote the Squirrel Girl novelizations, the middle grade books for Squirrel Girl, and they wrote a young Diana story, Diana, Princess of the Amazons, and you can get the first chapter of that. And they all have the thing that you're feeling is the embossment of the Bat City logo.
When did y'all get that?
The day we put out these comics, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a brand new thing.
That is super dope.
Yeah.
Look at y'all.
Fancy.
Everybody else is like, what are you guys talking about?
Right. There's
I could show them, but it'd be hard to see.
It's hard to see probably on this camera, but we did get an embosser this week that is
It's
actually
cool on the black.
Was that your thing, Matt, where you're like, I really want an embosser?
Yes, 100%. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you probably can't, but there is...
Keep turning it. There it is.
We can actually emboss comics. So instead of a stamp, you'll get that in your comics.
For like free comic book days.
Yeah, free comic book days, but more specifically for the books that we send us for.
Supposedly doesn't count against CGC for green label.
And it looks cool,
if it's
too.
embossed.
Scott
Green
said,
label
there it is.
if it's stamped.
Yeah.
That's neat.
But not embossed.
So embossment might stop you from having the green label of stamping on CGC. We don't know, but we're going to try it out.
Right. See you at Free Comic Book Day.
Scott says, is that right?
Are you going to emboss every book that comes through here now?
The free ones?
The free ones. No.
I think you should do all of them.
No, we're definitely not doing all of them, but we are going to do that for the ones that go to like libraries and schools and stuff, so that they can have a record of it too. All right, let's give them something. You want to pull up that prize? Up next, we are going to give you once again a ticket to enter the drawing for the Phil's purposely trying to cover his own face. Let's be honest. We are giving away.
I mean, you don't need to see me anyway during this moment.
We're giving away.
Gives me a chance to pick my nose.
TJ said, "Will you emboss his Uncanny X-Men number 100?"
Yes.
We will give you a ticket to enter the Amazing Spider-Man 700 9.8 CGC graded drawing that will take place this Saturday during Small Press Halloween from 9 to 4 Bat City. We're also going to give you a copy of one of my favorite books that's recently come out, issue 1 of Alice in Leatherland. This is a great Alice in Wonderland, like rom-com story everybody needs to read, and if you don't read it, you're missing out on a great story, and this is from Black Mask. To win that, you have to tell me, Echo, who we just mentioned in the Phoenix song, is the adopted daughter of Kingpin, but what was her actual father's name? If you can tell me Echo's father's name, you can get a chance to win this amazing Spider-Man number 700 and a copy of Alice in Leatherland, which is honestly and truthfully one of the most adorable comics I've ever read in my life. And everybody should read it because it's so good.
Is this still going on?
No, it just wrapped. So the whole series is out. And the creative team has a couple of books coming up from 2 different publishers, I think, but they have an Image title coming up soon.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So, yes, Scott. Oh my God, Scott's like, I am winning this freaking Spider-Man. Thank you. So, Scott, yes, it was Willie Crazy Horse Lincoln. You are getting this Alice in Leatherland book, and I hope you enjoy it. Yes, thank you, Chad. Hecte's Will coming from Black Mass from the same creative team. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited.
I'm into that.
I know. It's gonna be so good. Alright, so now we've got some trades for you. So most of you watching know this, but I feel like we should start pointing this out because one of the things we get asked every time we mention trades in the store, like when people come in and they're like, oh, what are these? We're like, oh, trades are 10% off, blah, blah. People are like, oh, so I buy this and then I trade it in later and I get 10% off. So a trade is from the term trade paperback, which means it's a paperback collection of a book, essentially. And so it's a collected edition that is either all of the story or the first volume of stories, but it's usually like 1 to up to 8. It's like, I guess, 4 to up to 8 issues of a comic series grouped into one collection in paperback form. Trade is short for trade paperback. And we've got a couple of those and a couple of hardcovers. So we've got some cool collections to show you. First of all, the Eternals movie comes out November 4th /5th, whatever you want to call it. Movies come out on Thursdays now, let's just be honest. We've just moved on. They come out on Thursdays now. We've got the current Kieran Gillen run of the Eternals, and we also have the Neil Gaiman run of the Eternals with the JR art on it. A lot of people originally thought that it was going to be very, very much based on the Neil Gaiman run.
Yes.
Rumor is now that it's actually going to have a lot of the Kirbyism in it.
Sweet.
If you're one of the people that commented on Twitter saying, who is this Jack Kirby? He will never be anything ever in the Marvel world, and he's not a good artist.
People are saying that on the internet?
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Oh my God, it was a big, big thing. It was the one thing that made all comic book fans come together and say, you can say whatever you want about whatever comic you want, but don't ever trash Jack Kirby. He is the king of comics for a reason. That was a unanimous vote on the internet. We've all decided that. Yeah. But anyway, Jack Kirby is the creator of the Eternals. He's also the creator of pretty much everything you've enjoyed in the MCU. So if you are one of those people that saw the announcement that the Eternals was based off of Jack Kirby and you thought this guy is terrible, just know that everybody that you've loved in the MCU so far came from this man. And we're happy to show you some amazing books he did.
Also, a lot of the great artists that you love today were influenced by Jack Kirby, so...
if you're looking for something spooky for the holiday season, also recommended by Kieran Gillen, Scarenthood. This is the story of a group of British parents who drop their kids off at their school only to find out that the school is haunted by something that is connected to an urban legend. It's kind of in that same vein as like the It and those kind of things, where it's like the kids, when they were young, grow up, and somehow they're still being haunted by this thing. You kind of get a little bit of that feel. This is an IDW book. It was probably my favorite IDW book of last year.
And it's a complete story.
That should be the complete story right there. So if you're looking for something good for the season, this is definitely creepy and wonderful.
$15.99 too. Not a bad price for a full story.
No.
Ooh.
There you go. Do it. Tell them about it.
If you do not read the wonderful works of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, you are missing out. And basically they are taking the Reckless series and expanding the world out. This isn't going to be the last book that they do for this. I'm very excited. These books are really great. If you like crime noir, this is like Ed Brubaker is like the Michael Jordan of writing
Where, like, everything's just solid every time.
Yes. Like, he is just fantastic all across the board. I've never disliked an Ed Brubaker book.
Yeah.
And it's a nice hardcover. It's going to look beautiful on your shelf, $24.99. And also go read Reckless as well. And Fatal.
And 10% off at Bad City on all collections. Time Before Time, Volume 1. This is a recent Image title that a lot of people haven't picked up. This is your Shapley.
Huh? Oh, Declan Shalvey.
Yeah. Yes. This is a time story that's a little bit different than usual because we do have... it's not necessarily about the time travel, but it's what would happen if, as an American society in the future, we corporatized time travel. Like, are you dying of cancer? Well, guess what? They cured that in the future, and if you pay us enough money, we'll send you to the future to get that medicine. Did you want to go back and die with your family? Well, we can make that happen for enough money. We can take you back to that time period that you want to die in. And a guy who's like, hey, that's a really crappy way to be, tries to bring it all down.
Nice.
Yeah.
It says it's a mix of Saga and Looper.
I don't know how to mix the Saga, but I definitely get the Looper vibes.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people were saying when it first came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's wrecked by Jonathan Hickman and Charles Soule. So if you need people who know more about comics than Phil and I to tell you if it's good, Charles Soule and Jonathan Hickman have said it's a great book. So, we talked about Ice Cream Man earlier. I think every fan of Ice Cream Man should read 1 Week in the Library. This is W. Maxwell Prince workshopping his entire idea for Ice Cream Man. It is about a guy who lives in a library, and you see 1 week of his life. And the anthology idea that they do in Ice Cream Man is done by him picking up books. Whoa. And each book leads him into a different world. You've got mixtures of prose. You've got different plays with the medium. Issue... for whatever, the Wednesday of it all, he's like, this can't be real life, and so he's like, I need to go into the real world, and he ends up in a cubicle job, and he's like, God, for the love of God, please tell me this isn't real life. Like, this cannot be what life is, and it's all black and white and dull, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. And it's such a great book, and honestly, truthfully, you get to the end, and W. Maxwell Prince is like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this. No idea where this is going. And he draws himself in as a character to tell you he has no idea where it's going, which I half expect to be the end of Ice Cream Man as well. So definitely read this. I believe it's a $9.99 trade.
Yes, I was actually just thinking that probably is going to go in my box more than anything else.
Yeah, and speaking of $10 trades, AWA Upshot has Chariot. This is the first AWA book to be optioned to become a movie. So, yeah, I was like, where's my sound effect? I'm pausing for sound effect. This is AWA. It's Knight Rider meets Drive, essentially. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. This, and it's Brian Edward Hill writing it, and it is basically a girl who is a spy type character in the past, gets killed and kind of becomes like the spirit of a car. And then we have a guy who, in the modern times, is trying to save his child. And the only way he can do that is getting involved with the dangerous people that he promised his ex-wife he'd never get involved with again. And he ends up teaming up with the spirit in the car. So she's much like a Kit kind of character for him. It eventually becomes almost Tron-like. Everything you need in a book, you're going to get out of this if you're into those kind of action-adventure stories.
Yeah, I can't show this, but like that 2-page spread.
Yeah,
I like the obviously.
Do you see the Tron elements of it? There is like other parts that have the Tron element.
The pinks
that you can
and the blues. Yeah, this is
this
art-wise.
Is the epitome of the pink, purple, and blue.
Yeah,
like, it almost takes it even further than Homesick Pilots does. This literally lives in that pink, purple, and blue.
On the back, it says the appealing things to me are it's the comic baby of Drive and Knight Rider, and it's an action-packed synthwave thrill ride.
That's all great descriptions of it.
Yeah. And then on the front it says Knight Rider meets the Matrix.
Yeah, I would have said Tron instead of the Matrix, but I get why they thought.
Will you toss that one in my box?
$10 from AWA Upshot. We have more than just the one Phil bought.
Yeah.
We also have the single issues. If you're like, I'm a single issue person, I don't like trades, guess what? I have the single issues. We talked about Basket Full of Heads earlier. Here is a hardcover version of Joe Hill's inaugural book of the Hill House imprint at DC Comics. I'm throwing this your way. We never talk about that we have this, and I don't know why.
Dude, where is this?
It's on the shelf. We've got like volumes 1, 2, and 3. Phil doesn't want y'all to know what it is, though.
No, this is, so basically, the original Mirage Turtles books were black and white. They went back and decided to recolor all of them, which, I think you should read both. But I think it's really cool that they did this. This is the first 7 issues, plus the Raphael one-shot, the Michelangelo one-shot, and I believe that is it, yes. And that Raphael one-shot is...
You're not going to own it and read it in single-issue form. Let's just say that.
It is a very major key. First Casey Jones. If you have never read Mirage Turtles, you are missing out because these issues are so badass.
Also, if you are a fan of...
Well written.
Oh, very much so.
For sure. If you are a fan of the Turtles, they have been doing these like best ofs, and they're pulling a lot of these like Mirage issues and pieces of those individual series. And Shredder's is coming up.
I saw the Shredder one.
And so is Casey Jones. He's also getting one.
That already came out.
That was
Casey Jones came out.
April's
getting one, and then I saw the cover for Shredder.
That's what it was. Because I was mad Casey came out as a yellow cover because I thought that should have been April's color. That's stupid. That's what it was. Yeah. Casey should have been white cover.
What color is April's?
It's not yellow.
I think it is yellow.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, because I noticed that Shredder and Splinter both are pink.
Maybe she is. I thought she was orange. I thought hers was like an orangey color, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I was just
Casey should have been white.
Casey should have been white like his mask, but whatever. I don't make the books. I just buy them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Redemption. This is, speaking of Mike Deodato Jr. on art, this is Krista Faust, AWA Upshot. And Krista said, what if we're constantly seeing all these Western movies where the young girl falls in love with this essentially asshole who is played by like a John Wayne, Clint Eastwood kind of guy. They're surly, they're old, they're not the kind of person you'd ever fall in love with, nor are they really the typical hero. And she's like, you know what if we took that and we put like old lady Sharon Stone in that role? And we made her like the older version of her like Quick and the Dead character, and also we made her queer.
Nice.
What if we did that? And so this is the story all about a young girl who's trying to save her new West, I guess, because it's dystopian, new Western town from the people who have kind of like in Taint Girl taken all the water, and it's the patriarchy and all that, and she's trying to destroy it all, and she needs to find the butcher, and the butcher is this literally Mike Deodato drew Sharon Stone. Like, let's be real. I talked about Ice Cream Man. I'm just going to tell you we have all of the volumes in stock. You don't need me to tell you how great it is. Wonder Woman's 80 year celebration. It is from All-Star Comics and the debut of Wonder Woman to all of the great appearances and things. This is your 80th anniversary celebration. Noctera Volume 1 out this week from Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel. This book is phenomenal. I did not expect it to be as good as it is. It's very family driven, very great story driven. The world has lost its son. We don't know if we're ever going to see it again, and anybody who spends too much time in the darkness becomes a giant monster who tries to kill everybody else. This is issues 1 through 5 of Noctera.
1 through 6.
1 through 6. Sorry, I don't know how to read.
For $10. 6 issues.
Yeah.
Less than $2 an issue.
$10 for that massive thing. Yeah, Chad just said it's beefy. Yeah, and it's only $10. Let's see if I can pull these over here. We also have some half-off trades. We keep telling you on Instagram that our half-off trade section is fire. We're not lying. One of the things we have is Volume 1 of Sin City.
I can't see the price on that. Oh, it says $19.
It's like $9 in the end.
Yeah, like $8 or $9.
Less than $10.
Less than $10 for Volume 1 of Sin City. If you've never read it, now's the time.
Yes.
We also have this Twilight Zone book, which is going to be about $15. I've never read a Twilight Zone comic, but I want to now.
Can I say that the only Twilight Zone comic I've ever read is when it crosses over with The Shadow?
Nice.
Dope.
Which was weird.
This is an entire Green Goblin story collection thing. It's got all kinds of stuff. Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Green Goblin 1 through 13, Amazing Scarlet Spider. a lot of issues, and it's like $20
for all this sweet Green Goblin.
Speaking of Spider-Man, we've got Avenging Spider-Man, which includes the first appearance of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. This is the complete collection of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's also $20, which is huge. Huge. It's a very big book. I also almost don't want to let people have it because I kind of want to read it. We have Volume 1 of Dawn of X. This is going to go across all of the X-Men titles. This is the issue 1 of everything in the Hickman-verse. So X-Men, Marauders, Excalibur, New Mutants, X-Force, Fallen Angels. You're going to get the number ones of all 6 of those original titles, and it's only going to cost you $12. We actually have a 50% off copy of Department of Truth. That means it's $5. $5 freaking dollars to read the first volume of Department of Truth. One of the best books out there from James Tynion. This is it. This is the one copy that we have on the half off rack. $5. If you haven't read it yet, this is your moment. And then lastly, off of our half off rack, this is just a small tiny fraction of the 4 shelves of 50% off, 3 shelves of 50% off comics. This is Star Wars Epic Collection. What's in there, Phil?
So this is Volume 4. You get Star Wars Rebellion 1 through 16. You get Star Wars Boba Fett Overkill and Star Wars Boba Fett 1/2. Plus, you get bonus material from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Rebellion number 0, and Star Wars Tales number 3, 15, 17, and 21.
That's insane. It's $20.
Yes, $20. Get your Star Wars fix. They're cool.
And you get an Epic Collection. Epic Collections are awesome.
Yes.
Big fan. Big fan.
High def.
Right, nice colored version,
The
like
4K.
super, like yeah, it's like the 4K version
Nice
of all the
glossy pages.
yeah,
Dope.
That's a cool 2-page spread.
yeah,
Love that.
awesome. I love that you guys are talking about this great art off camera, so nobody can see the greatness that you're
They
talking
gotta
about.
come in.
Right, you gotta come in
get
and
it.
look at it. It's the only way, apparently. This is the way,
Yeah.
as the Star Wars fans would say. Prize! That means you have to get that book down again. So
I was so on it last week too.
Right, this week, which is funny because last week we were both like, I'm so tired, and this week when you were like,
Okay, let me also say I've only had 4 hours. I'm working on 4 hours of sleep.
yeah.
And I have to go back to work right after this
Oh, that's crazy.
to do work. So
Do you have to do your inventory still?
I do because I decided to take a nap instead of go and do inventory. So.
Well, thanks, Phil. Thanks for joining us. Well, we are once again going to give you a ticket to enter the drawing for the Amazing Spider-Man 700 9.8 graded Dynamic Forces CGC slab. It's amazing. We're also going to give you a copy of Red Christmas #1 from Scout Comics, which is a completely ludicrous comic. It is crazy. If you didn't watch our live streams last year around the time when it was coming out, just know that you're going to dive into something incredibly absurd, and I'm excited for you to do so. Nubia, who we've been talking about all night, technically has 2 first appearances in comic books. What are they? You can tell me both of Nubia's first appearances. I will give you a entry into this drawing as well as this comic book. Your secret, once again, is that you can Wikipedia that information. Yeah, Nubia. She's so cool. I want to be half as cool as Nubia when I grow up.
I do too. I also want a Nubia movie now.
Yes. And I really, actually, what I think would be really cool is if the next movie was actually just the trial of the Amazons. I don't even know what that story is yet, but if, like, the next movie of Wonder Woman was, like, she had to go back, and there was this huge, like, thing with all the Amazons. We got to see Artemis and Nubia and Hippolyta and Cassie and Donna. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen any kind of hints about Donna. I know they're trying to give Wonder Woman her time, but I'm surprised. I mean, I guess we have Donna on the Titan show. So
Yes.
And
it's just wrapped up, sadly.
we know that Warner Brothers and AT&T doesn't believe that the TV audience is the same as the streaming audience or the movie audience, so we'll never see any of that. Scott, Wonder Woman Volume 1, Issue 204, and Wonder Woman Volume 2, Annual 8. Scott is determined. Scott is on a warpath for this Spider-Man. And I'm gonna let you do it, Scott. You just keep going. Also, Red Christmas. Seriously, this is a thing. It was a non-stop comic, which means that it went from issue 1 to a graphic novel.
Okay.
But that's all Scout non-stop comics go directly to graphic novel. That is the whole point of that imprint. That's the non-stop of it all. Is that it won't stop once issue 1 comes out. It's absurd. We've got some industry news. So one of the things that was really big, Image announced that they are not going to be doing additional printings.
Yes, this was all over my Twitter feed this week. That due to the paper shortage, they are only going to be doing first printings of books, just to kind of help out with the issues that are going on. So this is important for y'all to know, because if you don't pre-order the books that you want, you don't do that initial order, if you don't hop on FOC, then there's a good chance that there are going to be some of these books that you miss out on.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about that a lot. There is the previous catalog. Bat City orders 1 for the store at all times. So if you are ever like, I don't use previousworld.com, I need to see the previous catalog, I don't know what's coming up, you can come in here and ask us to see a copy of the previous catalog while you're here, and you can write down your order of what things you want out of it. And we'll add it to your list. If you're not a subscriber, you can still do that and say, I really don't want to miss these titles. If you want to prepay out of that before the previous order is due, you can actually save money off of your order if you prepay. But the other thing is yes, a lot of times people come in and they don't sign up for something, or they didn't grab it, and they do end up with that second print. Nightwing issue 78 and issue I think it was 78, maybe 80 something, one of the 80s. They were both issues that completely were just, most people that have gotten it on second prints. That's a DC book, obviously, but just to make an effort, the note of that is that there's so many books that people mostly are buying out of these additional printings because nobody's mentioning that they're into it beforehand, and then the print runs are small on it. White is a great example from Black Mask, is that it's limited, very, very limited. Most stores only get 1 or 2, and then all of the things come in second print. And a lot of Image books, because they are creator owned and people don't know what they are before they come out, don't jump on it. Or they are looking for the second prints. That includes Spawn. So if you're like, hey, I really want Gunslinger Spawn, guess what? Probably not going to be a second print of Gunslinger Spawn. The other thing to note with that is Image is one of the companies really, really feeling the burden of this print issue. It is something that's going across the entire publishing industry. It is not something that's just comics are suffering from this. This is something that the entire publishing industry has experienced because of that. And we're seeing books of all kinds be delayed over and over and over and over again. And because of that, we are seeing we're seeing delays. Wonder Girl is supposed to be on issue 7 in the next couple of weeks, and we are only going to hit issue 4 or 5. And then that issue was even more delayed since then, and we're seeing this continue to happen where books are getting pushed back further and further and further. As retailers, we're getting weekly emails from Image now that are list of just it's like spreadsheets, these books are going to come out, these books might make it to half of you, please hold, these books are not coming out, these books are going to be coming out this week instead of the original thing. Our Image email this week had literally 4 different graphs of what we could and could not sell and when things would be coming to us, because the publishing industry is suffering so much from these delays. I will say Lunar has been doing a great job of consistently updating when the new DC comics are coming out, but the rest of the Diamond hasn't been updating Previews World and everything like that. So a lot of times people will come in and they're like, well, I saw it on the internet that it's coming out this week. And it's no, actually, that is actually getting pushed back a little bit, and we don't know when. I was laughing with the customer yesterday because he said, when is the IG-88 issue of War of the Bounty Hunters coming out? And I was like, oh, it's listed as October 27th. It could be different. I was like, let me see if anybody has anything else. Like, and I just typed it into Google, and all the eBay listings of it now are like October 27th through like December 25th.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody's hedging their bets. Like, they don't want to promise you a book at this point.
Yeah.
That might not be until later. And so that said, I respect Image's decision to say, you know what, additional printings are just not necessary. Like, they're not always necessary. And there are a lot of cases where we order the additional printings and we still have the regular printing on the cover. I know even with Black Caravan's Black Friday, I had a lot of people who asked me, can I get that second print of this book? And I was like, well, do you just want the second print, or do you... And they were like, no, I mean, I just want to read it. I was like, well, I still have issue 1.
Yeah.
I still have the original printing. And they're like, oh, I just assumed because there was a second print announced that meant you were sold out. That's not the case. When they say this issue sold out and it is going back to an additional printing, they mean comic book stores bought all of the stock from Diamond.
Yes.
They do not mean all of the stock has been bought from comic book stores. And that's a really important, like, nomenclature thing kind of situation, where that, like, the numbers that you see of, like, the 460,000 copies of House of Slaughter have already been purchased. Obviously, 460,000 copies have not been purchased by customers yet, because the book's not out. Comic book stores bought 460,000 copies of the book. And those numbers, you know, Berserker being like the biggest book that they've ever had, that's because comic book stores ordered that many.
Right.
It has nothing to do with how many were actually purchased from comic book stores. Comic book stores could be sitting on that book for the next 50 years, and it would still have these best-selling numbers because comic book stores ordered that many. It is all about that. And so when you see these 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th or whatever printings, comic book stores might actually still have the first printing in stock. You can ask your local store. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it did sell out. But sometimes those additional printings are just because they're not in stock at Diamond.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're not in stock at the stores. And I have times, I have books all the time where I'm like, well, I guess I'll get this because I know people want those 2nd and 3rd printings. I'm not buying it because I'm out of it. I'm buying a couple for the people who collect additional printings.
Yeah, I think the thing for me when I think about Image, the only real impact this has on me personally, and I think it's really not anymore because the series is over, but it's Stray Dogs.
Yeah.
All those second print movie variants.
And that was a big one Twitter was upset about, because they were like, well, what does that mean for the new Stray Dogs series? And I was upset for the thing that Chad just brought up, which Image already committed to actually fulfilling all orders on What's the Furthest Place from Here's Deluxe Edition as a second print, because they didn't fulfill the first print of that. As far as I've seen on Matthew Rosenberg's information, and what Matthew Rosenberg specifically said to us in our tweet, is that will be fulfilled.
I also think this is not something that, like, it's not like right this second it's happening. I think they've made second prints for books that have always been already been solicited. It's just going to be everything moving forward. And honestly, I really actually like this move. I know it's going to upset a lot of people, but in a time where everything is a shortage right now, we need to start thinking about the world around us and how these decisions are affecting us. And I wouldn't mind if we also started maybe cutting back on store exclusives and all these retailer incentives. Maybe start chilling out on those. That
was actually a big thing I saw too, is like, do we need 32 open order variants on all of these titles from the big two?
We do not. I don't need 900 Venom #1 variant covers. Give us 2 or 3. Or
Vampirella. Every Vampirella cover has
when you go through Dynamite,
10 covers. And then it has a Dynamite does like the 10 covers or whatever, and then it's like a 7 copy incentive, a 10 copy incentive, a 15 copy incentive, a 20 copy incentive, 25, a 30, and a 40, and it's like, I mean, that's where you could, maybe they're not getting as many orders, but if you're talking about you know, all these opening. I do like having some variants because I do like giving all of these artists an opportunity and seeing that, you know, we wouldn't see.
Right.
But do we need 25 to 30 of every title? No. And that's kind of why I like the indie. Like, the indie is like, I think one of the biggest indie titles that has multiple variants is the Marie Levitt titles. They always have 4.
Right.
From Ablaze. Ablaze is big on the, like, up to 4. And even that, like, it's one of those, and it's like the fourth one is always like a movie homage.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, we don't necessarily, I like having some. I don't know that we need as many as we see, but, you know, it's nice to have all the different art options. But that is definitely a way to cut it. The other thing is that they're now announcing a cardboard shortage.
Yes.
Which is interesting because all comics come packed in at least 3 boxes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's going to mean for comic book shipping and things like that. But we'll see. So it's going to be a very interesting time in comics going forward because everything that we use for our supplies for comics is everything that has a shortage. And so there is a lot of, the delays are going to get worse before they get better.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot of cuts and changes. So just remember, it's not the creator's fault. It's not the store's fault. It's not even really the publisher's fault.
No.
It's just that's where we are. You know, the cardboard shortage came from the fact that in the last year, everything was done through e-commerce because nobody was open during 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's a cardboard shortage from all of the things that had to ship in the last year. That's not any of the current retailers' faults. That's not any of the publishers or distributors' faults, but that's where we are. So it's kind of, you know, just be respectful.
Yeah. But I think that even though there's going to be some disappointment for a lot of things, I think this is going to be beneficial for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
And Chad just brought up a good point. Like, this is probably going to increase the spec value, like speculators grabbing those first prints a lot more. So that's just a reminder once again that let us know.
Order.
Yeah.
Just do the initial order.
Check out your previous catalog. Come in, look at the previous catalog. I am happy to order for you direct. I have a massive Google Drive that has literally every person who reads previous catalogs' name in it, and then everybody who just adds a couple titles. And some of these people are subscribers and some aren't. And they have a tab on my Google spreadsheet, and I write exactly which previous catalog you're ordering out of, and I keep a track of it. And I'm happy to do that for all of you, if it means you come in and order out the previous catalog and we can try to help the publishers get the right books printed at the right time.
I can honestly say that I love looking through previews catalogs.
It's one of my favorite things
It is
to do.
one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
I will sit down. It's almost like when my parents used to sit down and read the newspaper.
It is my newspaper.
Yeah,
that's a good
like
point.
that's my newspaper. And the great thing is a lot of those bigger, like some of the bigger publishing companies have obviously more space to kind of show off their stuff. And so, like, if you go to Image, they'll give you the 2 to 3 page preview so you can see the interior art. You can kind of get a feel for what you're going to be checking out. So it's a good opportunity to just kind of keep up with what's going on. I primarily use it for, like, trades, collected editions, a lot of, like, really interesting off-the-wall stuff.
I always say to go to the manga section and then read the book like a manga.
Yes,
and work your way backwards.
Yeah.
So you get all those small press books and you can see like those people who only have one book to offer you, what are they offering and what is that book about? Read those first and then work your way back because you're probably going to like what Image and Boom do.
Yeah.
You don't need them, you know, you're going to get up there and you're going to be like, oh, I want all of these books. And then if you start at Image and Boom, you're going to order all of those and you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't order anything else. And you're going to miss a gigantic chunk of great books.
Yeah.
So read your previous catalog like a manga, work your way back from manga. If you like manga, start there. If you don't, start right before it. And, you know, start Zenoscope and work your way back.
Yeah, maybe rip out the Zenoscope pages, maybe rip out some of the Dynamite pages, and then go through there.
Just go through there.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So, there you go. We got one more giveaway for you, and this is the big one. We are going to be giving away a ticket to enter the Amazing Spider-Man 700 prize!
Which is not even the best part of this prize right here. I know.
Prize! I'm going to keep doing it every time you do it. This is a great prize. Dynamic Forces certificate of authenticity, a 9.8 CGC slabbed Amazing Spider-Man 700. That sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's only half as cool as the fact that we have a signed copy of Chicken Devil shipped to us from the creator himself. This is signed by Brian Bucoletto. I'm so excited. Chicken Devil is a great new Aftershock title, and this is signed by Brian, shipped to us from Brian. Shout out to him.
Yes.
He actually heard the story about our comics getting stolen the week that Chicken Devil came out and how upset Phil and I were that we didn't get to read it. So he shipped us signed copies of the book when he got back from New York Comic Con as a consolation prize for having to wait for the thing. So thank you
Shout out to him.
so much, Brian, for doing that. That's amazing. And we're actually going to give you one of these copies as well as a ticket. If you can tell me this question that's kind of hard, not going to lie. The autumnal, or autumnal, however you want to say it. He says autumnal, so I guess the autumnal book with art by Chris Sheehan is one of Vault's biggest titles on their Nightfall imprint. What other major Nightfall book did Chris do cover art for? So if you can tell me what other book Chris did cover art for on the Nightfall imprint, that is a very big book on the Nightfall imprint, you can win this signed copy of Chicken Devil and an entry into the Amazing Spider-Man 700 book.
Also, Chad, I just want to say it's foolish that you skipped the manga section.
Chad says I have to be immune from this one. He probably Chad just interviewed Chris Sheehan, so he may have actually know this answer. But if you are not Chad and you did not just interview Chris Sheehan yesterday, or research for that interview with Chris Sheehan, you can tell us Chris Sheehan did cover art for the one of the other major Nightfall books. If you can tell us which one, you win this signed copy of Chicken Devil by Brian Bucoletto. And if you didn't know, and you missed all of the other announcements, Chris Sheehan will actually be here on October 30th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. as a part of our Small Press Halloween. He will be signing copies of the autumnal as well as the release of House of Slaughter. CGC will be on site. You can get CGC witness signatures as well as remarks, or you can just do regular signatures, and that is it. BJ, that's not the book that I am thinking of. We are talking... Chad is giving you all of the clues that could possibly be the case. Oh my god, Chad, you just, gave it away. Chad just made that super easy.
Yeah.
It is the founding book of the Nightfall imprint, I guess.
Is it really?
I can't believe it!
Is it a cover? How can we get it? Can I get it here by Saturday? How can I get it?
How can you get it? I can't actually get... I can't... Yes, BJ, the plot. The plot is... Chris Sheehan did the variant covers for issues 5 through 8 of the plot. So, so BJ, you are going to get this signed copy of Chicken Devil, which I know Sai will be very excited about.
Oh, they're dope.
Yeah, they're amazing. He's actually, if you go to Kirby's Comic Art, their Kirby's Comic Art website, which is Chris Sheehan's representatives, they are actually selling the original art for it, and it's all in
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, he's got issues 5 through 8. I believe all of the original art is still available for sale on the Kirby's Comic Art
that
page.
one's super rad.
So
we're talking about art off screen again.
Yeah.
Hey, they have phones.
Right.
They've got computers.
Phil's telling you need to look it up.
I like that. That may be my favorite. What issue is that?
That's Return to Plot.
Right, that's the second series. You guys are just gonna...
Number 7.
7?
Okay, cool.
Damn.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm upset that we don't have those. Yes. Chad says, speaking of Chris Sheehan art, Radio Apocalypse. Chad, where's my list? Thank you. Shipping, as Chad said, shipping delays may impact, but this book, comics out this week. Once and Future 21, Wonder Girl number 4. Crossover is impacted by this. Crossover number 9 will not be out this week. We Only Find Them When They're Dead, number 9. DC's versus Vampires, number 1. Darkhold Blade, number 1. Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target, not Deep Impact, that is a movie starring Elijah Wood. Deep Target, number 1. And then for the Bat family, obviously, House of Slaughter, number 1 is out. Daredevil, number 35. Wonder Woman, Black and Gold, number 5. Mom, number 3. Finally, I might be impacted because it's an Image title. Good Asian, 6. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, number 6. Good Luck, number 5. Moth, number 5. And Vinyl, number 5, which I'm super excited about. I have to double check all of those Image titles to see if any of them are impacted. I do know for a fact that Crossover was on the list. My list, like I said, was 4 different spreadsheets this week of what is coming out this week versus next week versus the week after because of all the Image delays. So a lot of those might be different. Please bear with us as they are. One thing I do know for sure is House of Slaughter is coming out on October 27th. That's this Wednesday. It's also my dad's birthday. So I have not forgotten that is a thing. House of Slaughter will be out. We will have Chris Sheehan here signing copies. Like I said, if you just want a signature, it's completely free. If you want a CGC witness signature or a remark, Chris is doing those as well. There are fees. You can check out our Facebook event page for the information or Instagram. If you are not going to be in town and you're like, I desperately need this, give us a call, shoot us a message so we can invoice you for that as well. We will have tons of copies of issue 1s for cover A, the blanks, and a ton of incentives. Incentive prices will be available on that day. We are not going to pre-sell the incentives. That is something that will be available that day. You can find out when that day. I recommend getting here early if you're looking for an incentive. We will also have all of our SmallPressShann creators, which includes so many incredible people. Like I said, Richy Vegas will be here with those copies of those incredible books that he makes. We'll also have Kevin Garcia with his new comic, also talking about monsters. We'll have Drew Edwards with Halloween Man. You can get your copies at Drew Edwards' book, Halloween Man versus the Mummy. That is going to have Matt live on lettering. You can get that. And other than that, there's a lot of fun. Bring out the kids if you have them. There's so many great and wonderful things. We will see you on Saturday, October 30th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for that event. If we don't see you then, we'll see you Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. And if not, we will not have a live stream on Halloween. Once again, that is your reminder. No Halloween episode of Mind Down Your Weekend. Phil and I will be doing it live during SmallPressShann. You can come see it, or we'll shoot it onto Facebook during that event. But it will be during the SmallPressShann event. So come join us. We'll talk about comics. It's going to be great. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Get at this SmallPressShann. Bye.
Bye.